Good evening. I'm Holly Jarlow Babcock, and I'm now calling the Hollis Brookline Cooperative School Board May 17th meeting to order at 6 o'clock p.m. I guess we could go around quickly and just say our names instead of me doing it. I'm going to start with Mr. Solon at the end.
My name is Tom Solon.
Thank you.
Cindy Van Conant.
Krista Whalen.
Gina Bergslag, Assistant Superintendent.
Andy Corey.
Holly Babcock.
Kate Stoll.
Beth Williams.
Jillian Berkeley.
Tim Garzone, high school principal.
Amanda Zeller.
Patrick West, middle school principal.
Thank you. Okay, so, agenda. Let me look at this. We're going to go right into non-public, thank you. I need a motion that the board by roll call go into non-public session pursuant to RSA 91-A:3, Part 2A, the dismissal, promotion, or compensation of any public employee, and also Part C, to discuss a matter which, if discussed in public, would likely adversely affect the reputation of a person other than a member of the body or agency itself. I need moved by Beth. I need a second. Second by Kate. Roll call vote, starting with Tom.
Tom Solon, aye, but I don't like the fact that you rush it so that people who don't know why we're going into non-public have no idea why we're going into non-public.
Okay, so I'll try to read that more slowly the next time. Thank you. Cindy?
Cindy, yes.
Krista, I.
Holly, aye.
Kate, I.
Beth, I.
6-0. We're now currently in non-public. this point, we're out of non-public, and we'll move to appointing a process observer. Rob, I have you as our May volunteer. Does that work for you?
For process observer?
Observer, yes.
Cost of being late, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. So that would be Rob. I sent an email to the board. You've all been assigned months. So to volunteer. You have been assigned anything, but
You've been volunteered.
suggested volunteer, voluntold, yes. Okay, and then some agenda adjustments we will add during the discussion unless there's an objection. Just a quick report out from the Budget Committee rep, which is Tom Solon. And then we also, what?
Quick.
Yes, quick. Did you see this agenda? Please, let's move quick. Quickly. And then also, we do need to, during deliberations, approve, I've sent you a email with the committees that have been assigned, but we will need to have a board approval on that. So that will be during that. Is that okay?
Yeah, and then we're going to take off the business administrator's project recommendations. And we're doing that because we had hoped to have some, what I'll say, firmer numbers, but they're still in the revenue and expense report, but when we have firmer numbers in June, we'd rather take the vote then when we're talking exactly what is needed.
Perfect.
So both of those,
Just the
So under deliberations?
under deliberations, the business.
but are you going to also eliminate it from discussion, both of those items?
Okay.
Under the revenue expense report, there are the two listed.
I can talk about them if you'd like.
I just.
Yeah, I'll talk about them a little bit, but I just don't want to vote on them tonight,
Okay.
Tom.
Okay, so are there any other agenda adjustments or issues with the agenda? Okay, so at this point, I'd like to move forward to nominations, resignations, retirements, and correspondence.
Okay, I have 3 resignations, and then I believe it's 12 nominations, so we have a lengthy piece tonight. The first one is, Dear Superintendent Corey, please accept this letter as a formal notice of my resignation as a school counselor at Hollis Brookline Middle School for the 23-24 school year. My final date of employment will be June 30th, 2023. The students I have worked with over the past 6 years have continuously impressed me with their perseverance and talent. I will do my best to ensure a smooth transition for the incoming students to middle school prior to my departure, and that is from Kristen Turcott.
Okay, so I need a motion to accept the resignation of Kristen Turcott as school counselor at the middle school.
So
with-
moved. Oops, sorry.
With an effective date of June 30th, right? Thanks. Moved by Beth,
Second.
second by Cindy. All those any discussion, comments? All those in favor? 7-0, motion carries.
The second one is, Dear Superintendent Corey, please accept this letter as my formal notice of resignation from my position as the French teacher at Hollis Brookline Middle School. I will finish the academic school year, making my last contracted day June 30th, 2023. I have already informed Principal West of my decision to leave, and it is a decision I didn't take lightly. Hollis Brookline was the school where I started my career and holds a special place in my heart. I have decided to move on to continue French in a neighboring district. Teaching at Hollis Brookline Middle School has been a pleasure. I'm lucky to have made such wonderful friendships with my colleagues, a group of teachers that are the finest, most dedicated, and professional co-workers that I could possibly ask for. I am happy to help in any way to assist as the year concludes. And that is from Jessica Minot. Minot?
Why not?
Minot.
Great. So I need a motion to accept the resignation of Jessica Minot as the middle school French teacher with an effective date of June 30th, 2023.
So moved.
Moved by Beth,
Second.
second by Kate. Any discussion? All those in favor?
The next one is...
7-0, motion carries, sorry.
That's okay, I'm sorry. From the high school, I am writing this letter to inform you of my resignation from Hollis Brookline High School. It will be necessary for me to resign due to changes in my husband's job. We will be moving to a new location. My final working day as a teacher in Hollis Brookline High School will be at the end of fiscal 2023, June 30th. I am so grateful for the experiences and opportunities I have had at Hollis Brookline High School. Thank you for the incredible support to create a safe and collaborative classroom for computer science students. Together, we have built a computer science program that will continue to grow. I already have amazing students who are looking forward to computer science classes next year, and that is from Lorna Spargo at the high school.
Spargo, okay. So I need a motion to accept the resignation of Lorna Spargo as computer science teacher at the high school with an effective date of June 30th, 2023.
So moved.
Moved by Beth, second?
Second.
Second by Cindy. I'll go with Cindy today. Okay, is there any discussion? Thank you for your service. All those in favor?
Okay?
7-0.
And the last resignation is again from the high school. Dear Tim, I am writing to inform you of my decision to resign from my position as school counselor at Hollis Brookline High School effective at the end of the 2023 contracted school year. I want to express my sincere gratitude for the opportunities and experiences that I have had during my time at Hollis Brookline High School. I am proud of the work that we have accomplished together. I have decided to pursue another career opportunity that aligns with my personal and professional goals. While this was a difficult decision to make, I believe is the best choice for my future development. Thank you again for the opportunities and support that you have provided me during my time at Hollis Brookline High School. I wish you and the entire faculty continued success in the future, and that is from David Hersey, High School Guidance Counselor.
Okay, I need a motion to accept the resignation of David Hersey as a high school guidance counselor with an effective date of June 30th, 2023.
So moved.
Moved by Beth. I need a second.
Second.
Second by Kate. And is there any discussion? All those in favor? 7-0. Motion carries.
Okay, now we're going to move to nominations. Just so the board is aware, each of these, a committee was formed, whether it be the middle school or the high school, of teachers and administrators. In many opportunities, our assistant superintendent was able to be on the committee as well, and either Gina or I have completed a superintendent's interview / discussion with each of the candidates. So the first candidate is at the middle school and is Ashley Clemens, Clemons. She'd be a math teacher at the middle school, and she has a bachelor's in middle school math from Lesley University, and she'd be at a bachelor's step 10 for $58,473.
Can you just give me that number again?
Sure, $58,473.
So, are you done? Yeah. I need a motion to accept the superintendent's nomination of Ashley Clemens for the position of middle school math teacher at bachelor's step 10 with a salary of $58,473.
So moved.
Moved by Beth. I need a second.
Second.
Second by Kate. Are there any questions or discussion on this one? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor? 7-0, motion carries.
The second nomination is for Virginia Henninghausen. I'm going to spell that for Dawn, Hennighausen, and I apologize to Virginia. The position is for ESOL, and it's at the middle school. She has her bachelor's in history from Gustavus Adolphus College in Sweden, and she'll be at bachelor's step 15 for a salary of $66,650.
Okay, so I need a motion to accept the superintendent's nomination of Virginia Henninghausen, try that, for the position of ESOL at the middle school at a bachelor's step 15, is that what you said? With a salary of $66,650.
So moved.
Moved by Beth,
Second.
second by Kate. Are there any questions or comments? All those in favor? 7-0.
The next nomination is for Claire DeLay. Claire will be joining us as a science teacher at the middle school. She has her bachelor's in biology from the University of Mary Washington and her master's in education from New England College. She'll be joining us at master's step 6 for a salary of $58,236.
Okay, I need a motion to accept the superintendent's nomination of Claire DeLay for the middle school science teacher at a master's step 6 with a salary of $58,236.
So moved.
Moved by Beth,
Second.
second by Kate. Any comments, questions? All those in favor? 7-0, motion carries.
The next nomination is for Neil Schmidt, SCHMIDT. He'll be joining us as a tech ed teacher at the middle school.
Yay.
He has his bachelor's in economics from Occidental College, and his master's in business administration from Northeastern University. He'll be joining us at Master's Step 8 for a salary of $61,184.
So I need a motion to accept the superintendent's nomination of Neil Schmidt for the middle school tech ed position at a master's step 8 with a salary of $61,184.
So moved.
Moved by Beth,
Second.
second by
Second.
Kate.
Yeah.
Was there a comment?
Question, just, what about, where does the background connect to tech ed?
He has his tech ed certification.
Okay.
Within the state of New Hampshire, and has been teaching in a neighboring district in that content
Okay,
area.
'cause
It's based-
The degrees did not,
Sure, it was a second career,
okay.
so he likely went through a site-based plan in his prior district, and he's fully certified now.
Thank you.
Well, congratulations to us for that. So all those in favor? Well, I mean, it's been a position that's been incredibly hard to fill, and that's fine for the public to know that, so it's great. All those in favor? 7-0.
Next
Motion carries.
is from the high school, Caroline Silver, Silva. She'll be joining us as a school psychologist at the middle school. She has her bachelor's in...
Do you say the middle school?
I'm sorry, it's the middle school. I apologize for that. So she's at the middle school. It's a bachelor's in psychology from UNH. She has her master's in school psych from Riviere, and she's an ed specialist school psych from Riviere as well. And she'll be joining us at master's plus 30, step 5, with a salary of $60,738.
6738, okay. So I need a motion to accept the superintendent's nomination of Caroline Silva for the Hollis Brookline Middle School psychologist position. She's a master's plus 30, step 5, with a salary of $60,738.
So moved.
Moved by Beth, second by Kate. Any more questions? All those in favor? 7-0, motion carries.
Next is Caitlin Marengo, Marengo, Spanish teacher at the middle school. She has her bachelor's in modern language and Spanish from Northeastern, her master's in urban education from Northeastern, and her master's in special education from Northeastern. She'll be joining us at a master's plus 30, step 8, for $65,408.
What was the position?
It is Spanish,
Spanish at the middle school?
correct.
I need a motion to accept the superintendent's nomination of Caitlin Marengo for the position of Spanish at the middle school, master's plus 30, step 8, $65,408 salary.
So moved.
Moved by Beth,
Second.
second by Kate. All those, discussion? All those in favor? 7-0, motion carries.
Next is Ashley Rendeau, Riendeau, who will be joining the high school as a math teacher. She has her bachelor's in math from Plymouth State University and has been 9 years of experience, so she'll be joining us at bachelor's step 9 for $57,047, so $57,047.
So I need a motion to accept the superintendent's nomination of Ashley Rindeau for a math teacher at the high school, bachelor's step 9, with a salary of $57,047.
So moved.
Moved by Beth,
Second.
second by Kate. Any comments or questions? All those in favor? 7-0, motion carries.
Next is Carly Jennings, Jennings. She's joining us as an English teacher at the high school. She has her bachelor's in English from Pennsylvania State University, and she has her master's in curriculum instruction from the University of Virginia. She'll be joining us at master's step 5 with a salary of $56,816.
So I need a motion to accept the superintendent's nomination of Carly Jennings for as English teacher at the high school, master step 5, with a salary of $56,816.
So moved.
Moved by Beth,
Second.
second by Kate. Any questions? All those in favor? 7-0. Motion carries.
Next is Megan Anderson, who will be joining us in school counseling at the high school. She has her bachelor's in communications from UNH, and she has her master's in school counseling from Plymouth State. She'll be joining us at Masters Step 8 for a salary of $61,184.
So I need a motion to accept the superintendent's nomination of Megan Anderson for a high school school counseling position at a step of Master Step 8 with a salary of $61,184.
So moved.
Moved by Beth,
Second.
second by Kate. Any discussion? All those in favor? 7-0, motion carries.
Next, we have Mary Copper, C-A-R-P-E-R, who'll be joining us in school counseling at the high school. She has her bachelor's in rehabilitative counseling from Assumption College and her master's in vocational counseling, also from Assumption College. She'll be joining us at a master's plus 15, step 17, for $78,804.
I need a motion to accept the superintendent's nomination of Mary Carper for school counseling at the high school with a master's plus 15, step 17, and a salary of $78,804.
So moved.
Moved by Beth,
Second.
second by Kate. Any questions? All those in favor? 7-0, motion carries.
Next, we have Laurel Bakker, B-A-K-K-E-R, who will be joining us to teach health and wellness at the high school. She has her bachelor's in athletic training and psychology from Springfield College, and she has her master's in athletic administration from Endicott College. She'll be at master's plus 15, step 19, for a salary of $83,730.
I need a motion to accept the superintendent's nomination of Laurel Bacher for the health and wellness position at the high school at a master's plus 15, step 19, with a salary of $83,730.
So moved.
Moved by Beth.
Second.
Second by Kate. Any questions? All those in favor? I assume Cindy, 7-0.
And lastly, Kristen Allen will be joining us for French at the high school. She has a bachelor's in French literature from Oberlin and her Juris Doctorate from Lewis and Clark. She'll be joining us with a master's plus 30 on step 20 for a salary of $88,583.
Okay, so I need a motion to accept the superintendent's nomination of Kristen Allen for a French teacher as the high school with a master's plus 30, step 20, and a salary of $88,583.
So moved.
Moved by Beth,
Second.
second by Kate. Are there any questions? All those in favor? 7-0. Yeah, I did see. 7-0, motion carries. Wow.
Oh,
Yeah,
I just have a couple of general questions about the hirings.
sure. I just have to say, that's a lot of work that's been done in a really,
I mean, a lot of new
in a
people.
month. Yeah, so that's great. Yes, Tom?
With these new hires, how many counselors do we end up with in the two schools? Do you know offhand?
How many counselors?
Yeah.
It'll be the same number as we have this year.
Do you know what that is? Are we fully staffed?
Yes.
Okay.
We had a resignation last month and a
No, I
resignation
know, I
this
just,
month, so.
that's one of the
Right.
offices that we've
Right.
had some ebbs and flows, and I wasn't sure where this left us.
No, okay, great. Any other questions? Okay, so at this point, we need to move towards approving some minutes. I have the first set of minutes that we need to approve are from the Hollis Brookline reorg meeting on, co-op meeting on April 12th, 2023. Beth, you were absent, so we have the following amendments offered. Page 2, line 41, replace her with my and correct the spelling of honor. Page 12, line 5, insert with before so much more. Page 13, line 22, delete it following when. Page 14, line 33, insert at following look. And page 15, line 40, replace and with an. Page 18, line 35, replace he with the. Page 19, line 48, replace he with the. I need a motion to accept as amended. And a second.
So moved.
Moved by Kate.
Second.
Second by Rob. Are there any further comments? Yes.
There were a couple of instances where, I don't know whether it was memory or cut and paste, but it referred to me as vice chair still.
Okay.
So
So
I
we'd
just
like
want
to
to go
make
through
a
it.
further amendment to that.
Yeah, to change that back.
Change.
It's just a search and replace.
Sure, okay. So we'll note that for Dawn, and she'll make those changes. So, all those in favor of the minutes as amended? 6, 0, and abstentions, 1. So 601 motion carries. Okay, next page. My outline. We had some non-public minutes from April 12th. I need a motion to accept as presented.
So moved.
Moved by Kate, seconded by Rob. Any comments or questions on those? All those in favor? 6 nays and abstentions. 601. Okay, thank you. At this point, I will speak to the concept of public input. We'll be opening the floor for public input in a moment. The floor will stay open for 30 minutes, although we will move on with the meeting. We will watch the time and make sure that if anyone comes in during that 30 minutes and would like to participate and have public input, we will allow them to do so at some point during the meeting. We ask that people keep their comments to 3 minutes. And we ask that you state your name and address for the record. Keep your comments respectful, and I think that's pretty much it, right? So at this point, I'd like to open the floor for public input. Yes? Oh, also, one other thing for those of you who are speaking, this is not a question and answer time. We just take the input, and we may address it later on in the meeting, or we may not, depends on what it is. So come on in.
Steve Edelson, 52 Crestwood Drive, Hollis, and I'm the chairman of the Energy Committee. It's our understanding that the co-op board is considering a facilities committee, and we'd like to offer our services to assist in whatever way is appropriate, and we don't want to interfere with your objectives and make sure we're aligned with them. So we need to learn more to see how we can help. We have started planning for it, assuming there would be opportunities to assist, and we started to look for consultants that we could use to help assess the energy, possible solutions for the heating, the oil tank replacement, the lighting, the things that were in the proposed last year. We're also investigating funds for that. We've identified, some matching funds, possibly up to $4,000, that does have a deadline of June 15th, so we'd have to find the first 4,000 to get the 4,000, and we're also looking at other sources of funding. So, any way we can help, please let us know. If appropriate, we'd love to be on the committee in an advisory role.
Thank you for your input.
Okay, thank you.
Is there any other public input? Okay, so open the floor for public input. I didn't state this at 7:19, so somebody do 30 minutes on that and tell me what time we'll close it.
7:49.
Thank you very much. The numbers are not my friend. So we will be closing it at 7:49. I'll put a big note up to myself to do that. Okay. Okay, now we'll move forward to the principals and athletic reports. Because of the extension of this, we have an extended agenda tonight. The principals are welcome to just give us some bullets. We've all read the reports. That's part of our job. It's part of what we're supposed to do. And so if we have questions and comments, we'll do that. So I'm going to start with Patrick, because we'd love to hear a little bit about the DC trip.
It's nice to see everybody. I don't think I've been to a board meeting since January, so nice to see everybody again. Rob, I don't know if we've met yet, but we'll talk at some point. So the highlight for the middle school is the DC trip. I think this is my 7th year going with an 8th grade group. We had a lull in between the last time that we went, and there were quite a bit of changes, I think, from previous years. But I can't speak highly enough about this trip and how well it went, in big part because of our chaperones. Beth was one of our nurses. Thank you again, Beth. Thanks to all of our chaperones, but the trip was incredible, so incredible that students were advocating for another day, which we've been looking into, just kind of seeing if we could build in a 5th day, looking at costs and everything. But there are some pictures in there. I know you guys have all read it, but it was an incredible trip. These students were so well behaved. It was just a lot of fun, and I can't wait again for next year. We've had some more field trips going on at HBMS. This spring. The month of May is filled up with a whole bunch of field trips. And every time students get back into the building, it's just been really great to see the smiles on their faces and talking about the connections that they're making on these trips with the curriculums. We celebrated Earth Day a couple weeks ago, thanks to our nurse who's kind of taking the lead on some of our, efforts to make improvements to our recycling and getting the greenhouse back up. So we had all of rock groups go outside, plant just some small plants, pick up trash outside around the school. It was a great event. The Greenhouse Garden Club continues to make efforts improving the garden, the greenhouse, our compost that's going on in the cafeteria, as well as our recycling. It's just been great to see students getting involved with all of these things that have kind of gone on, but lulled in the past few years, but we're getting them kind of reinvigorated and students back participating in a lot of these efforts. Quite a few student shout-outs there. One of the highlights is a student, his name's Benton Zhang. He's, I think, down right now in Florida for the national math counts. He is representing the state of New Hampshire, so best of luck to Benton. Also, Addison Oleski, she did a great job with the DAR essay. She actually won at the state level as well. Congratulations to a 7th grade student, Rose Kelly, state representative for the National History Day, which she's going to attend the last week of school down at the University of Maryland. And last but not least, our 8 choral students who participated in the music festival on May 6th in Bedford. I've attached our course numbers, and I think that's...
We'll talk about course numbers in a second. Does anybody have any comments on the principal's report? I too, would like to thank the chaperones for all the field trips and for the Washington DC trip and for all the effort that went into, having that happen and come back after COVID. That's wonderful to see. Not just the DC trip, but all of the field trips. And then congratulations to those students that you already mentioned, because, there's a lot of shout outs there, and that's great to see. So, how about the class size numbers for the middle school? Are there any, they're in our packet? Are there any questions or comments on those numbers? This is sort of an important distinction. These are not set in stone. These are based on numbers of requests. So what you've received in requests, the middle school is a little bit more cut and dry than the high school because we have a team approach. So a certain number of kids on the team and a certain number of teachers. So, but if there are no questions on that, we can move on to the next report. Anyone? No. Okay, great. Seeing none. Should we move to Tim, are you covering the athletics report? And then we'll come back to your principal's report?
I think Patrick will do that.
Oh, Patrick's is doing an
Yep.
athletic report? Great, Patrick. Sorry, didn't
No,
mean to
no worries.
step on your toes.
All good.
I guess
Just
Tim
trying to
feels like
help
maybe
out.
he's got a lot.
He's got a lot, yep. Take a little off his plate. He helps me out a lot, so.
Okay, sounds great.
4 weeks left in the spring season at the high school. Boys volleyball, it sounds like are undefeated, trying to make another run at a championship. Baseball, softball, and girls lacrosse are all top 4 seeds currently. All 4 of these teams sounds like likely make the first round of playoffs at home, and then the second round possibly also at home. The boys and girls tennis teams and lacrosse team have improved since last year, and looking like the teams will also make playoffs this year. The high school track team has had its highest participation numbers in years. It sounds like their D2 state meet is coming up next week. Also, our unified track at the high school has also been having a great season and will participate in their state meet on May 30th. At the middle school, the end of the season is coming up here quickly. Our baseball season was undefeated until last Friday's unfortunate loss to Bow. So they currently only have 1 loss and 1 tie. They're having a great season overall. Our boys lacrosse team at the middle school is also sitting with only 1 loss, so they're having a successful season. The girls lacrosse team is making a lot of improvements to their season currently. And I'm just trying to find where the last spot was that I was at. And there are some softball dugouts, plans to looking at plans for the HBMS softball field. I know Brian's all over that. And then the Athletic Booster Club update continues a major support system for our programs. It sounds like there's been cleanup days, with other community events, including a race that took place in Beaver Brook. And May 26th, next Friday, is the Overlook Country Club Golf Tournament.
Great, thanks, Patrick.
Of course.
Are there any questions on the athletics report at this point? Okay, seeing none, let's move on to Tim's, but thanks, Patrick, for
course.
covering that. Looks like they're having some great season, lots of good spring sports, which are always fun. Okay, and Tim?
Can I just ask, would it be possible for me to just highlight a couple things, and then before I do the numbers?
Yeah, I think that's fine. You can, I think that's a great idea. So you want to move on to CAP block presentation and the social worker position presentation, and then come back to class size numbers?
I'll do numbers after those. if
Is
that-
there
if that works.
any objection from the school board on that? No, then let's do it that way. That sounds great.
Okay, I just wanted to highlight a few student accomplishments, as you'll find in the report. We had several students recognized by the National Center for Women in Information Technology. Evelyn Mancia, Abigail Barrett, Arden Goodchild, Mindy Hugh have received the honorable mention from this organization for aspirations in computing, and Mercedes Gavin received the Rising Star NCWIT Award. So congratulations to those young ladies. I wanted to, again, recognize some very impressive accomplishments by our senior, Will Longton, again. Will was recognized as an honorary merit scholar through the National Merit Scholarship Program. This status recognizes Will as one of our nation's most distinguished young people, and he most certainly is. Will was also recently named one of 6 semifinalists for the state of New Hampshire for the U.S. Presidential Scholars Program. So quite an impressive accomplishment for Will. HBHS is very proud of him, has many accomplishments. Look forward to hearing about all of his future successes at the University of Oxford, where he plans to study next year. So congratulations to Will. And I did want to bring everyone's attention, Austin is not here tonight, but Austin was recently accepted into the United States Military Academy at West Point, where she plans to attend next year. So congratulations to Austin. We'll have a representative of West Point presenting her with her acceptance letter at the Senior Night Awards coming up in just a couple weeks in early June. We have some upcoming events. Just want to highlight, we have Guitar Night coming up this weekend, Walk for Change School Day event next week, and then all of our end-of-year activities with seniors, including Class Day Awards, which recognizes our academic awards winners throughout the school. So open to any questions.
I just have one comment. It's great. I want to congratulate Will and the folks for the National Center of Women in Information Technologies. But last month, I wanted to make sure, I actually said it in the minutes, that we also recognize that Austin, who is our student body rep and is going into West Point. I have a note. Dawn reminded me that I said this. We want to make sure that we acknowledge that she became the first girls wrestling state champion for Hollis Brookline High School as she competed in the first ever NHIAA Girls State Wrestling Tournament this year. And you may have told us last year, but I wanted to take a moment and actually congratulate her from the board, but she's not here to do that, but I hope maybe she's watching. So,
I
but
am sure she is.
if you see her tomorrow, any of you, just let her know that we called her out. Special.
Stream that from home, right?
I'm sure she's viewing it from home. I'm sure she is.
Couldn't stream it here.
Yeah, no. So, yeah, she couldn't stream it here. Nope, that's true. Can't stream anything right now. So, okay, thank you, Tim, great. And moving on. Oh,
Moving
did
on.
anybody else have questions for Tim? No, I did all.
I would like to introduce Ms. Jillian Berkeley, our school social worker. She has put together a presentation for the board that I will, if you just give me 1 minute, get set up here. I think you're good.
Should I stand or?
Whatever makes you comfortable is
Julie,
fine.
just make sure you have a microphone, because it's for the recording.
You can use that one.
That
Yeah,
one's fine.
they can't hear you if you're not talking to the microphone.
Can you see from there?
Do we need to turn some lights on?
You can turn that.
Can you just get the,
Are they on yet?
There's power to it. I don't, it doesn't, when you hit it before, there were 2 blue lights, now there's only 1.
Do you know any good jokes?
I don't think it's active because it might be on standby.
Tech department, tell me what to do on this one.
I think
Could
Logan
just do it
has,
sitting down, if I could just peek at your laptop.
he's got the remote. See, second blue light.
I can't see that
There we go. Now it's going. Something's happening now.
Yep, we're good. There's light.
Okay, here we go. I think we need less lights. I don't know.
Okay.
You got it, Gina? Thank you.
Put more cowbell.
Thank you.
There we go. That's
All right, well,
perfect.
good evening, everyone. I am Jillian Berkeley. I'm the school social worker at the high school, and I'm going to share a little bit about myself. I find this slide really important because my role in the buildings, the high school and the middle school, is about connection with students and families during very sensitive and concerns, you know. And when you're talking about something really personal, you kind of want to know who that person is. So this is why I have this slide here. That's me. I'm Jillian. I am from Denver, Colorado. A fun fact is I have an amazing Portuguese water dog. She is one. Her name is Nova, and she knows German commands. Now, why does she know German commands? She's a Portuguese water dog. Well, my family used to live in Switzerland prior to coming to New Hampshire. But I'm from Denver, Colorado. Now, Switzerland is a German-speaking country, and it was required for me to learn German. So that is why Nova knows German. You will find me and my family on trails throughout New Hampshire because we love hiking, and we're exploring some trails in Massachusetts as well. All right, so the services I provide are actually in two buildings. I provide services mostly in the high school, but I also have started providing services in the middle school. At the time when I submitted this, I had 53 referrals for the school year. The services that I will also go into more depth about that I provided are student and family clinical sessions, family consultations, staff consultations, student support service meetings, mental health groups, bridging access to school-based and community-based services, delivering New Hampshire in 68 hours of bags, delivered about over 250 bags throughout the high school and middle school, and delivered 40 boxes for families for the holiday meals. Okay, so I apologize that this has a lot of information, but it also represents that I was busy. So I'm going to go over a bit of these things. Some of them do kind of overlap into other months. But my first year here at the high school, a bit next door to us, I was a new staff. This was a new position. So my very first expectation for myself was to engage with all staff members and find a creative way of how to do that. But then there's also a lot of questions of like, what is a school social worker and how's that different with all our other positions? So I believe it was actually the first staff meeting I found myself to be brave, and I did a presentation for our staff to understand like what is my role and how you can access me if needed for our students. Then I actually went to each department PLC meeting and also reviewed that referral process as well as just to gather more information of what they hope to see throughout the school year. That's still September and October. I also started working with our CWA, which is our Community Wellness Ambassadors. It's a student-led group that provides wellness in our building and worked very closely with them. Going into the next month, and I hope I didn't skip anything during my busy first 2 months, but in November, December, I started to engage more heavily with our community stakeholders and how to connect resources in our buildings and outside of our buildings. That kind of looked like me connecting with our congregational church as they actually provide those meal boxes for our families and identifying the students who may need that during those holidays. Of course, during that time, my role did look like providing clinical services for our students and our families. I provided a workshop during our PD day that actually kind of overlapped with our speaker talking about resilience. So it was kind of a nice bridge in talking about resilience in the classroom and how to support our students and what that looks like developmentally. Now I'm going to go to the next month. I also, with many snow days actually that happened in January, eventually I finally was able to have the presentation for our freshman midterm, where I showed and shared with students with our counseling on how to have healthy study habits, because midterms was a big thing and a first thing for many of our students, and what they can do to organize their way of how to study and be successful. Excuse me, I'm like reviewing. I also implemented a mental health tech group, as well as a group for pursuit of happiness. The mental health, or it says tech group, but the idea was to have a group for students to understand how to use technology and also have a balance of their mental health and how both those things kind of come together and ways to kind of build skills. The Pursuit of Happiness group was kind of helping students to identify their personal values and their belief system and kind of creating like a self-care plan for themselves to be successful throughout their entire life or their school year. And then, of course, I continue to provide direct services to students and families throughout that time as well in January and February. March and April, I connected with our middle school to kind of enhance and improve our safety protocol and school policy for how we identify safety concerns with our students with a crisis. And I attended the National International School Social Work Conference. It was actually in Colorado. I was a little bummed that it was sold out, so I did it virtually. It was still great, but very long. And continued to collect boxes throughout the Congregational Church. Currently, now here we are, we're in May, and I actually have some stuff that's, well, May and June. We have the school-wide Walk of Change, which is a community, which our CWA group is actually helping and supporting. Today was Wellness Wednesday, so earlier on today I was wearing athletic clothes. Tomorrow is green, which is wearing green to support and acknowledge mental health awareness, and that's the color. And then, as I said, it kind of repeats itself, provided direct services. This right here is a little snapshot of what the referrals kind of look like. So I did it on a Google form. This was internal, where it went to our staff had a link to it to share what student they feel like may need additional support and services. Of course, when I got a referral, I always collaborated with our school counselors to see, like, because they know the student best more so than I do. And they say, like, do you feel like this student needs additional support? After that process, in collaboration, I try to encourage with the student to have first contact with me. So what that first contact will kind of look like is a meet and a greet, and that this is optional, and to kind of see if we're a good fit. Sometimes I would ask to see, like, they want to do some trial sessions to see, like, what my service looks like and how I can support them. And then also after those initial sessions, I would then continue to collaborate either with their family or their school counselor to kind of figure out what tier of service they kind of needed. So sometimes I would connect with a student who wasn't referred, but it was like a crisis intervention or prevention entry, where I will meet with the student briefly and just provide them services, or they already had a mental health provider, and I really didn't need to provide them like in-home services in the building. Other services, and looking at the other tiers. Will kind of, if a student said, like, yes, I want to continue to meet with you, but I'm currently on this wait list and I can't, like, see a mental health provider in the community, I will kind of be like that buffer until they were finally seen. Sometimes that service could also look like just building some skills. Sometimes students did not need a therapist. They just needed to, like, develop some, like, skills just to get through this really rough chapter in their life. Sometimes that looked like connecting with the parents and figuring out that family support, like, what is going on in the home, how can I connect with you in regards, sometimes it could have been school avoidance, you know, like my kids just not coming to school and we're not quite sure how to get them to school, and unpacking that and what that kind of looks like. In addition, other tier 3 services, I was in meetings with 504 plans, IEPs, advocating for students, and part of suicide assessments and re-entrance meetings. sorry if I'm going a little too fast. I will try to slow down my speech. So what this kind of looked like, here we're seeing that the grades of students that I started working with. As you can tell, I did see quite a bit of 10th graders. And then next to that, I saw a bit of 11th graders, then our seniors. And then around January, I actually started working with a couple of 8th graders in this building. So when I connected with that students, I also tracked like how often was I meeting, so that duration. Majority of like good like rapport and building that skill that was necessary for that student to be successful in multiple domains was between 20 and 30 minutes was like that happy medium to connect with the student. And really, of course, I try to connect with that student off of a non-core class, like an elective or a study hall. So I was very respectful, of course, of their instructional time. And then the other part was like 1 to 2 hour sessions. I really did not keep kids for 1 to 2 hours. That was actually me doing like home visits. And no sessions sometimes went long just as they needed to be. So here is the location. So majority of my time I am in the building. You'll find me flying around either in the middle school or different parts of the high school. But then I was also in the community. I also provided home visits. I even provided home visits before school hours, especially for school avoidance, to like really understand like the intensity of what is that parent facing when it comes to like trying to get their child out of bed to get into the school, to try to like break down those barriers and understand like what kind of behavioral plan could we develop and implement to support that child, especially knowing that no services are going to be added onto that household for a bit of time. That didn't happen too often, but if it was needed, I absolutely offered it. And then if I had also had students that would not meet, I didn't want to not connect with them, so I also offered like Zoom sessions with parent permission or a phone call. In addition to what those also look like, 10% consultations with staff. Majority of my time was spent with students. Starting percentage is not showing there for family sessions with students. And then I also had family sessions without student if we felt that was appropriate in regards of the conversations we were having to support the student. Support service meetings, that was like our IEP meetings, our 504 meetings, kind of blended in with the special education meetings. And then my groups, and I missed the green, I have to revisit that. Here is what were the topics that I mostly kind of discussed. So you may not be able to see it. So I know earlier I said I had 53 referrals, and those referrals mostly of students I worked with ongoing until services was bridged into the community. But then I sometimes I had an open door policy, so I would meet any student regardless if they did not have a referral with me. So at the time that I submitted this, I had 272 sessions with students or staff. Again, so it was busy. So here you can clearly see that a lot of the symptoms or things I was working with was mental health. For a lot of students, I did not break that down into like what type of mental health that was, like depression or anxiety. So I just put that in a big group. And then attendance, school substance, socioeconomic issues, food insecurities, resources of outreach, so maybe calling providers and trying to make sure I had, like if these providers are still open and access or accepting new clients. And then staff training, and then health. So my goal for next year. My goal for next year is continuing to inform and like what is my role with in our schools. In addition, by doing that, I know the School Social Work American Association is a great resource to get our more professional development in that area for best practice and making sure like my role is being utilized efficiently and effectively. I hope to actually, because a lot of the trends that I saw, to kind of have like monthly coffee with the school social worker and making that a virtual in-person thing, and kind of having like different themes that are happening or parents can share, and kind of doing like a crash course And then, of course, if people want like personal one-on-one consultation, providing that on this side. Continued engagement with our community partners, because they're very important in the role that I play in engaging with our students and families outside of our buildings. Of course, implementing evidence-based practice. And then really working on more student-led engagement, like attendance and safety. So like, for example, for like our safety committee, like we added like a student to that so we can have a student's voice. Attendance is huge of school avoidance. And so having like a student's voice on like, what do you think your peers are dealing with could also maybe help us support our students from that different lens. And providing more staff support workshops.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Do I stand here?
You can sit down. You can sit down for questions. I think you'd probably be more comfortable. Okay. Do we want to turn on the lights again?
I think Amanda's gonna.
Oh, Amanda's going to present straight up? Okay.
Oh, no.
No, I think do we have any questions or comments for Jillian first? I think that's how we should do this, right? Yes? Of course.
That was just your back roll seat. That was very
That
good.
was very good. That was great. Thank you so
Very
much.
for doing that. That
Yes.
was really helpful.
Tom?
Yeah, I really appreciate how it's clear how you approach your role in a very creative way. And I didn't know there was so much that a social worker did. I was surprised, but I wasn't surprised at the mental health piece, because it's a discussion that we're having, you know, I think nationally, locally. I think as we kind of close up this year and start maybe next year, I would be very interested as a board member to see what other opportunities we have to support and bolster mental health. Clearly, there's a lot of young people struggling, whether it's anxiety or other issues, and I believe there's opportunities I think that this board could take on, and with some great recommendations from our administrators, I'd really like to see that number go way down. So, but thank you, it was excellent.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
I just want to say that as a social worker, I am really excited to have a social worker in our schools. So I'm glad you've had a good and productive first year.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyone else? Mr. Solon, Tom?
Hi, thank you very much, both for the work and for the presentation. I come from a family that includes numerous social workers, so I have an appreciation for both the impact and the diversity of the profession. I'm wondering what your time has presented to you as perhaps the biggest gaps that you're finding that you're able to fill, things that that we may not have recognized as needs that you were able to uncover or fill. And then the second question, follow on to that, is based on what you've experienced, have you identified anything that you think the board should attempt to bring on as additional resources for gaps that you have identified? So the first question is, what did you find was the biggest holes to fill, and what are the next holes we've got to go for?
Yeah, I think, being my first year, like I had to kind of find like a healthy balance of like, I need to like inform our staff, like what is my role, and then also be present for the students to know that this role exists. And so, and doing those together, there was a lot of challenges, because then like staff knew, but then kids didn't know that I even existed, unless the ones that I was seeing. And so I think the gap is how to make sure that the information is streamed in accessible ways that our students know what they're accessing, so they know this support does exist in the building. And I mean, of course, we have flyers, we can put on our website, but being, again, like creative of what that looks like. And like, for example, I hope to have more of a scene like during the orientation when parents are coming in, and just maybe having a presentation for parents, so they're, they can share that with their child. And then what was your second question?
Well, the second question is, have you identified more resources or work that we need to do to continue that? But from what you're saying, you've sort of identified a big one, which is educating our whole school community as to what's possible, what's there, and what resources we now have. Did you find that students with whom you had worked, or staff with whom you had worked, now became advocates and referrals, moving and spreading the word?
Yes, I did. I think there was, I wouldn't say hesitation, but just curiosity of like, well, let's see what's going to happen with this. And I think as you saw the progression of the timeline, my referrals did peak, and there was like a peaking point where I was like, wow, I just got a few from individuals that I didn't expect to get them from like teachers or counselors. And so I think, I did it well by being present and seen in the building as well as in the community. I started then because the referral process was currently internal. And then all of a sudden I was getting external referrals through parents in the community. So somewhere there was conversations that things were going well.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, and hopefully this presentation, this is a streamed, we do stream this, and it is on YouTube, and so hopefully part of the reason for having you come is so that folks will know what you're doing for us and why we wanted the position. So that's great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Excellent job. Thank you so much. You do not need to stay for the rest of the presentation, so we appreciate that you came, though. Thanks so much.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, Jillian. Excellent. Moving forward.
All right, so I'm going to turn it over to Amanda, and I will be presenting CAB block review. And if you just give me 1 second, I will get the presentation up. All right.
So we've had a couple times to review CAB block, that's why it's called a review. Specifically, what we were looking at was just a look at what we've been doing and how it's been changing over a period of time. We want to look at the adaptive scheduler and how it works and how is it going using that new part of the tool. I think Lauren DeGennaro presented about that tool when we adopted it, if I'm remembering correctly. It seems like a long time ago. And then we do identify that it's not perfect. We haven't figured all the pieces out, but there are some things that have gotten better and some things that we're still trying to resolve, some problems we're still trying to address. And then at the end, we have some things that pop out as big needs for us to be able to make this work the way we really, really want it to work. So starting with just the quick overview, what I loved about this, if you can advance it once, Tim. This overview actually took it from when Tim was doing my job at the high school. This was what he put together under Cindy Matt, I believe. And it's gone to where it is now. It's shown big changes, but the central idea is still the same. And that's flexible access for students to instructional support and time to spend working on work that they choose to work on, not what's assigned for their class period in that time of the day. So it started as a simple 3-tiered system in which Tier 1 was an assigned section that you went to as a student. Freshmen were supposed to stay in their sections as an additional study with some ability to leave. Other students, other upperclassmen had the ability to go. Tier 2 was when students would sign out and select to go to other classrooms or be summoned by a teacher. And Tier 3 really had a specific form of 4 to 5 teachers that hosted very small groups of students who were failing classes and needed specific support to be successful. This was focused on grades, failing grades. If you were failing 2 or more, I believe, it may have been even just 1 that stood out, you would be assigned to one of these groups and a teacher would monitor and go through the grades and try to figure out how to help you get out of that hole. There were some enrichment options. They didn't carry a lot of weight. This was mostly focused on visiting teachers. And there were some contractual changes that had to be made for staff. At this point, there was a shift in duties. so that staff had that CAB block instructional support time, they gave up duties. The wording is not quite that clear. There's a little bit of choice involved, but the way it's worded, everyone's doing CAB block. There aren't really staff duties anymore. This had two big impacts. One, study halls that used to be in individualized classrooms with a teacher supervising all moved to the cafeteria except one period of the day when we're eating in there. And they are covered by daily subs. So whoever signs up for the day covers the study halls. Might be the same person, usually is not. And then we actually have one of our subs here, right there. The kids know, this is one who shows up a lot for that job, and I commend him for it. But also, admin, Tim, Yolanda, Aisha, and myself, supervise lunches. All 3 lunches. We rotate a little bit, but that's our duty since there are no staff that have that as a duty. So we are in the cafeteria for an hour and a half in the middle of every day supervising student lunches there.
I'm just going to add one thing. So the tier 1, that's something that we've commonly referred to as that home-based CAB block. All students were assigned, I shouldn't say that, grades 9 through 11 were assigned the home-based CAB block, which was oftentimes the default location where students would remain for CAB block if they weren't assigned somewhere or signed themselves up for something.
Okay, then we saw a progression through MTSS evolving into a more structured approach. We use language such as RTI, but that turned into MTSS, or a multi-tiered system of supports. Other letters have been added. There's a B in some that applies to behavioral supports, but it more clearly tried to define the tiers of support. And so we were looking to use CAV block to create greater definition around specifically tier 2 and then very much tier 3. We wanted tier 2 to have a little more emphasis on a teacher requesting a student, not just the student choosing the teacher. And then tier 3, we were looking to create targeted skill groups, such as students who needed reading support, but not in a way that had them assigned to a special education reading section. So that was the attempt as we moved into this evolution of MTSS. And part of that was collection of data, because that's what we need to use for decision making, as we know. And at this point, we had no tool to do that except for paper sign-in sheets. And I finally cleared the 9 boxes of sign-in sheets from my office this summer. I thought it might be okay to let go of it. That's what we had to mine through to figure out how CAB block was being used and whether we could even start to answer the question of whether it was effective. This point, when we were starting to look at this, the enrichment opportunities continued to kind of dwindle. They were very specific. The gym has always been alive and well as a wonderful enrichment opportunity and one most of our students probably need. But it seemed a little less a focus of that time, and it was really focused on instructional support. At this point, Lauren and I went to go see the adaptive scheduler functioning in a school. I believe we visited Oyster River to see it functioning, because it's a plug-in tool for something we already use, Power School. What we were hoping for when we added this tool was to improve accountability. Before we had this, it was pretty difficult to locate a student in the building from 10 o'clock to the end of the lunch period, because you didn't know if they had signed out of their original CAB block. You didn't know when their lunch period was until you looked it up. So we could have a parent on the phone looking for a kid for a good 15 to 20 minutes, and that's not a good feeling as an administrator to not be able to find that kid. So we were looking to be able to locate students more easily. We were looking to clearly define the targeted intervention groups for tier 3. And we were looking to just be able to improve how much we could read the data on how things are going. So because this was a plug-in to our tool, Lauren and I saw it in operation, it looked like an access point for us to be able to achieve these goals. So for each of them, I wanted to show you how the tool addresses those goals. We wanted to use this because the students sign themselves up, and we continue to focus on this being the main point of this tool for students. It's still a struggle. We're still working on it, but I'll get into some reasons for why that might be the case in a few minutes. But students are supposed to sign themselves up. They choose where they go, but they are still accountable for that. It's not, I'm going to sign out of my home base and then maybe I'll arrive at my destination, but nobody actually knows until you go through the sign-in sheets. It's there on a schedule. If I find a student in the hallway and they're wandering, I can say, where are you signed up? And I can find it, or I can find that they didn't sign up and we can sign them up. So it's an easy access point to improve student accountability, but it also helps us reach out to a student and assign when it's necessary. There's no longer a memory tool involved or a pass that they have to locate. It's right there in their Power School schedule that they can see that their teacher asked them to attend. So it really improves the teacher role in pulling in those kids, but it also holds kids in the role where they can choose where they want to go. And we can find the kids. I can find kids during this time now, and I really couldn't before. I have a sense of where I might be able to see them. So this is what it looks like. This is a student schedule right here, and you'll see the 3 sessions there, and it's flexible. They can take themselves out of session. They can sign up the minute they're there. This is a very open tool for students once we figure out that access point. So the second was this targeted intervention group. On the right, that's what a session looks like. And it's the print is tiny, but what each one of these lists is what the session addresses, who's offering, what room it's in, and how many spaces are available. So it's not a guessing game as to whether you can get into your math help session. It's not a guessing game as to whether your English teacher is offering quiz makeups. It's right there in the schedule for you to sign up for, and you can see the different options of what's available to choose. Again, it puts more power in the hands of the students to choose what's going to help them the most. On the left, this is how teachers create courses. And it's all that needs to happen is someone needs to plug in the course. Usually it's me, but it can be open administrative access. And then the teachers can build the schedule that they need. I don't restrict them as to what can be put on a certain day. Once their course is in the list, they can say, today I'm running quiz makeups. Tomorrow I'm doing homework help. On Thursday we'll do test prep. But they can designate that themselves based on what they know they're going to offer. It's not a guessing game. And the last piece, data collection. It's easier. It's not the simplest thing in the world, but it's much, much easier than reading through paper sign-in sheets. And in order to really organize that, I would hand key things into Google Forms so that we could create a spreadsheet, so then we could sort the spreadsheet, and then we could try and figure out what data we could pull from that massive dump of data. This tool really does have built-in reporting functions that make it pleasant to ask a question and find an answer. It's there. The data's there for us to find. So that, I think, it's hard to ignore this piece on the teacher and student side because they're not working with this, but this looks so different and so much more accessible. So if we wanted to look at specific data points to assess how students are doing in certain content and how teachers are accessing students, we can do it with a few minutes of time in the system. So, on the side of the things that if you have a student in your home, you have a totally different view of adaptive scheduler. It's a complete failure, nobody likes it. But that is not how it seems from the hallway and the administrative side. It really has improved so much about the logistics of CAVBlock. However, there are some major things that we really would like to address. And when we're doing that, it's really important to remember the timeline of the rollout of this particular tool. We started it in 2019 and 2020. Right about the time, we started looking to say, okay, what did we really mess up with the pilot? What do we need to change for next year? We all went home. And who cared about adaptive scheduler at all? And then the next year we came back, we had a special schedule to adapt to the needs of COVID and being in school, one of the only schools in school. CAVBlock was put at the end of the day. It was a tool to help us reduce building capacity at that point, so it wasn't that important to have adaptive scheduler functional to know where the kids were. So the whole second year of the tool, it really wasn't something we were concerned about. The third year, we had a change in administration. It was a wonderful change, but it still means a lot of things that we're adapting to. So in what should have been our third year of using this great tool, when we should be having wonderful reports and everything's wonderful, it really isn't even our first full successful year, because we had that year after COVID when we came back and we were focused on making the students feel like it was okay to be here full time on a regular schedule. So this year is the year we can kind of say, okay, what do we need to change to make this really work the way we want to? Something from that first year rollout that disappeared, it wasn't instituted perfectly for a couple of reasons. It's in yellow there. On Mondays, we asked teachers to take 10 minutes of time to review CAV block with their students that week. It was part of period 4 because we weren't ready to do the advisory piece and put that in the mix because that had a lot attached to it that we couldn't address at that point, but we took 10 minutes that we said from period 4, this is your time. Ask every student to pull up their scheduler, check what's there, make sure everybody's signed up. If they aren't, help them sign up. Something about that is we were not one-to-one at that point. So we had schedules of carts available to certain floors. Lauren and I rolled carts up and down the elevators to station in the hallways so that every student for the 10 minutes their class was assigned could make sure they had a device. Very different world for us now. Completely different process. But this was just that first year, and we lost that time. That time was a check-in point and a touch point, and we don't have it now, and we're seeing an impact. That time would be, I believe that time would change our ability to make CAV block much more effective. So that's something to remember. We had it, and we couldn't hold on to that time. So if there's a way to get back to that time for home-based CAV block that doesn't take away from the flexible access, it would be a really golden opportunity. Next up. So, this is what's going well. The students do like that they get to pick where they're going. And it's not just signing out on a sheet. They get to look at a list and say, I'm going here. Some of them always look for just a quiet space, and that's fine. Some teachers love hosting kids who are just looking to sit and do some work. And that's great. They run it every day, and the classrooms are full. The adaptive scheduler lets us find kids. It really does. I can't tell you enough. I can find kids during this time. It's not such a struggle, and I don't break into a cold sweat when I get a phone call from the office telling me a kid's being dismissed at 10:15. I have a sense that I can find that kid. We can look at which students are accessing teacher support. So if we have a kid who's down in counseling all the time about math class, we can pull this up and say, so I'm looking at how many times you've signed up for math class. Maybe this is an underutilized time, or gee, you've signed up every day and you're still struggling. Let's look at the next level of support. It's not a mystery to figure out how much instructional support is being accessed. Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3 have gotten a little more defined. I don't think we're quite there yet. Tier 3 is not homework jail anymore. It is supposed to be a different time. We made some good moves towards defining that, and then we had some shifts that we didn't hold on to. Things like we had a defined Tier 3 executive functioning section that I thought was a really great tool. It had progress monitoring and entrance and exit criteria. And so the tool allows that space. I think that's a focus point. Again, with changing people in that role, that's going to be something that lies with the person who's there. And we can start really looking at the success of CAV block through data. We can start pulling some numbers and asking specific questions and looking for the answers in the system. On to the other part. This is a lot of small print on here. Makes it seem like there are a lot of issues. I'd rather say they're just very particular issues, and that's why there's so much text on the slide. We need to be able to follow up when a teacher assigns a kid to Tier 2, assigns a kid, and they don't attend. It's difficult to keep up with that, I'm not going to lie. It's pretty difficult to find that space in the day when a kid was supposed to go and didn't. I get to a lot of them, but there's a bit of a backlog there. We still need the tiered interventions to be further defined. I could say it over and over, specifically Tier 3 interventions, so that they're targeted towards skills and not just this kid is failing, sign them up for this teacher. It'd be great to have the enrichment opportunities go up. Jillian talked about a few of her, Pursuit of Happiness was one of the groups. She ran those during CAV block. It was a terrific time for that. So our enrichment opportunities, the gym is alive and well. Art does a really good job of having some kids in there who need that for brain space. But that's something I think we could grow in our capacity. Adaptive scheduler still feels clunky to people. It's still not smooth operating. We still have to remind students where to log in. It's improving. Power School's made some changes that make it more accessible, but there are times it still feels awkward. And we're not quite over that hump of automatic use. And the two at the end are tied to the contractual changes. We've lost supervised studies with a regular teacher. We have subs who come in, but sometimes they're assigned to classrooms, sometimes they're assigned to the CAF, sometimes they're filling other needs. So we never know who's going to be supervising the study. If you ask me where we have trouble keeping track of kids and finding kids, it's our study period. Because they sign up to go to the library, and the person in the CAF may or may not know students very well by sight, because they may have been in there every day, they may have been in there 2 days. It may be their first day there. So we can't, it takes a few steps to track students during that study period. The CAF is also not a great space to get work done. It's wonderful for socializing, and we see wonderful socialization during studies. And then we get parent emails and phone calls saying, I don't understand, there's so much homework. And you say, well, they have a study period, which they don't use for any kind of studying because the environment is far more conducive to hanging out. There's not a problem with hanging out, but there is when you're not getting your work done, and you wanted that freshman study period. For freshmen, we hear it a lot. I'd like my freshmen to have a study period. That cafeteria doesn't always meet that need, being the big open environment that it is. Students come and go. It's just not a good place to focus and concentrate. They also don't connect with a teacher regularly there. When you're assigned a teacher, there's someone who actually is kind of has eyes on you, notices when you're constantly trying to escape, notices when you're meeting in the hallway, notices when maybe you're struggling with a certain subject over and over and over. So they miss that point of contact with a regular staff member who knows them well. Also, admin lunch duty. An hour and a half each day. We have 3 administrators, possibly 4, in the cafeteria instead of in the hallways, instead of talking to counselors and teachers to support them. We are in the cafeteria monitoring students for an hour and a half a day. It's a significant chunk of the day to not be able, we're called out of the CAF for emergencies, and then we have to make sure someone else is there. Can you cover this? I'm headed out. It becomes kind of a negotiation as to make sure this is done while administrators are still trying to do the important duties of being an administrator. 4th period is a hallway wonder time for the students. They know that we are in the CAF doing duty, and we try to do laps in the hallways, but 4th period in the hallways looks a little more student driven than we'd like for that time to be.
Times.
So there's a tone in the building during that period that's difficult to manage when we're all supervising one specific area of the school. Most important thing here is boxed. We'd like to look at the schedule. I know everyone's favorite word, look at the schedule. But we lost a student connection piece. We lost a moment to have a home base with students, to look in at the use of this tool in this time, and have students stop for a time when they can do what they need to do to plan for the week and schedule themselves in. If we have the opportunity, if the time is right to look at the schedule, looking at the way we had that 10-minute time on Mondays to check in and establish CAB block for students would be really wonderful. It'd be a time to have students connect with a regular staff member, so we get that back. It'd be time to focus on the expectations for using CAB block. You should be signed up somewhere. It should be somewhere meaningful. And if we have enrichment opportunities, we can kind of sell those. That would all happen if we had that home base. And it just gives students a chance to look at their weekend plan with a consistent adult in front of them who they can ask questions about anything they'd like. So if we're in the place to review schedules, that would be a home base, dare I use the word advisory, a home base space for students that we see is missing and is needed. If we could look at the loss of duties and the way that affects study halls and lunch periods, that would be a bonus. Those are times that kind of work, but only at a working level, not at a functional, this is good, it feels solid. It'd be good if we could reestablish useful, supported study halls for every kid. If you're interested, I pulled this in about 5 minutes, just to show. This would have been probably, I'm going to say, a couple hours worth of work with paper forms, if that, probably a couple days. In 5 minutes, I could look at the month of October and figure out how many kids had gone to those 3 different, I just pulled those 3 departments for fun. And then within, you can see I pulled math. I can look at what kids visited different sections. Don't worry, AP Stats was very busy for the rest of the year, but this is October. They weren't focused on their AP test yet. but I can see how many kids were getting different supports. So I can see where I need staff. I can see if I need more teachers running sections of Algebra 1A and 1B during CAB block, and talk to our math department chair about creating those sections. And this was 5 minutes of work rather than days and days of work. So the tool, while not perfect, is giving us some capacity to look at what we're doing.
Thank you, Amanda. Great job. Great overview. Are there, so I wanted to try and keep tonight a little bit, quick, and then if we have further, and I know Amanda won't be here next month, but if we want to dig into these topics more in depth, we might want to put that on the June agenda. So we'll have a quick question and answer, but if there's more to discuss, I kind of think we might need to approach this like we do a policy, where you need time to process it and think about it if you have more questions, and we can have like a follow-up conversation. So anything that you have immediate questions for, Tom?
Yes, thank you.
Hey, Tom.
Hi.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much for this presentation, Amanda. It's very, very helpful. Three things immediately came to mind. One is, does the tool have any built-in analytics so that you can tell it you want it to monitor for certain conditions and either alert you or report out on that?
Not that I have accessed. There are some functions I can do, so I can pull on a daily basis how many students haven't scheduled themselves.
But you have to go in and pull it.
I have to go and pull it.
It doesn't push it to you.
Not that I'm aware of, but to be honest, I haven't had in-depth functional trainings. No. I don't have in-depth functional training in that particular aspect of Power School. When I go to my next Power School training, I'm going to sign up for the adaptive scheduler session, I promise you.
Okay.
But as far as I know, no,
Okay.
there's no push notifications or no push reporting.
Second question is, what is your expectations of how staff will spend their time if they don't have students show up for their session?
It's pretty rare. I walk around, and if there are no students showing up, usually if there are students who are unassigned, because there are always students in the hallways who ask me, where should I go? I have a good answer. I know this room doesn't have many students in it. If this is a repeated thing that I see, I can also pull staff rosters to see who's underutilized. I'll go chat with the teacher and the department chair saying, hey, this doesn't look like a resource that's really being accessed. Can we change what this teacher's offering? Usually that's happening without intervention from an admin. If a teacher doesn't have kids in their room, they know their colleagues are looking and saying, I've got 43 kids over here that I can barely manage, and you have 2. How about we team up? So that's being managed pretty well
Okay.
by department chairs, I think.
Okay. And the last question is, on the looking forward page, you wrote, can we revisit the contractual assignment of duties with respect to CAB block? What's the best way to get your input on that as we are entering a negotiation period?
Probably through me.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that input probably comes from a building principal is the best person who can have ideas about how to do that.
Okay, because that's something we need to understand very soon.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
That was great, Amanda.
It really was great. It really helpful to give
It's
it.
always nice to be here.
Well, and it was great to have you here, and it was great to have the whole, kind of the process. And we do understand that the first initial conversation about adaptive scheduler happened, and then we had COVID. So thank you for pointing that out. So, all right. If we have any other feedback or you think of anything, we'll put it on the agenda next month too. Okay, thanks so much. And anybody else? No? All right, Amanda, you are welcome to Skadoodle.
But you probably want to stay.
I mean, you can stay if you want, because it's.
We're going to review course numbers and
Are you?
emotional
Lights,
support.
Yeah, if you,
It's okay.
yeah.
Go ahead. Let's go.
All right, so in the packet, I included our May enrollment projections. These are based on course requests at this point in the school year.
and I would like to bring your attention to just a couple items in a few different departments. And I think I'm in the right order here on my printed copies. So if you could look at the computer science sections, what you'll see is a healthy AP computer science section, healthy semesterized electives as well, with a few of them being some smaller sizes. So the elephant in the room being computer science principles, video game design, and then web page design, all falling at or around the number 10. So 8, 9, and 11 requests for those. So certainly something to consider. We currently, as you heard tonight, we had a resignation from that position. My hope is that we will be able to replace Mrs. Spargo, and that we can hope for an increase in these section sizes as we bring somebody on board.
Tim, really quick, that represents, there's 2 teachers who teach those classes, right? This is, one person teaches like the.
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah, the project lead the way and the engineering courses are Devin, and then Lorna is the computer science courses.
Okay,
Sorry.
no, just wondering.
So do we lose AP computer science? A
Miss-
teacher for it?
Mrs. Spargo was teaching AP computer science, yes, and that position is currently posted.
What would be the plan if you don't find an AP certified person for that course in time?
It would likely be to approach someone internally to see if there was interest in, one, taking on an additional section, and then 2, interest in attending an AP institute to receive the training. Moving on to English, we have, I just want to bring your attention to just a couple numbers. The advanced writing course, that's usually seniors, that number is pretty high at this point, as is the AP English Lit class. There was 27 requests for both of those. And what we do see is those numbers do come down as we approach the year and student schedules are built. Those are both elective courses technically, so you do see some movement out of those courses, and what we've seen over the years is those numbers do drop a little bit. So we did opt to run one section each, assuming those will come down. Moving on to our family consumer science, healthy numbers in there as usual. We do limit the section sizes in our foods classes to 16, and the requests are plentiful, and we are in a good spot with some of our other electives in there as well. Our math sections, as you'll see, we're pretty happy with how things fell out again. We have, some of our lower enrollment numbers in some of our math classes requiring a smaller student to teacher ratio, such as essentials for algebra. The IMP class right now, that those are individually assigned through a process that we do expect to have a handful of kids. But overall, we were pretty happy with where our math numbers are.
Are you running 3 sections for schedule reasons, or because you want to keep the class size that small?
3 sections of what, Tom?
Essentials for algebra.
That's an assigned need.
Yeah,
Those are very specific educational needs.
and there's actually 3 different,
Yeah.
essentials for algebra, there's 3 different tiers. Students
Okay, so
advance,
it's not 3 sections at the same class?
No.
that's correct, yeah.
Thank you. Does this include any 8th graders coming up for any of these classes?
Yeah. Yep, this is
And they're factored into the numbers?
that's correct, yep.
Thank you.
Moving on to our health and PE. We have typical numbers in wellness and freshman fitness. And we do have a number of elective classes. You'll see we did run for the first time, the intro to strength and conditioning in the fall. And we do expect the intro to strength and conditioning number for the spring semester to increase with some popularity that we anticipate with that class. So we do expect that number for that class to go up. And Unified PE as well. That's a super popular class, and it's continuing to become more popular with just a really, it's a great program that Mr. Bushman does a really nice job with. Moving on to, yep,
before you jump out.
yeah, whatever makes most sense. If you guys want me to do questions at each,
No, I think questions at each is probably the best way to.
Okay.
Are we still allowing external submissions for the health and wellness credits? So,
yes,
are you getting any?
all PE,
Yeah.
not
Oh,
wellness.
okay,
Yeah,
sorry.
yep, all
But-
PE.
But are you getting much requests for that?
Yep, and I think last year at this time, I was asked that, and I did get the data. I don't have it tonight.
No, it's holding strong?
Yep,
Good, thank
yep.
you.
And we've streamlined our internal process for athletics registration if students intend to get credit through their Halls Brookline sport. We have streamlined that process with school counseling and athletics. Okay, moving on to science. We have, again, we're pretty happy with how our numbers played out. We have a couple singletons, such as AP Physics 2, AP Bio ended up a singleton, AP Chem is a singleton, and as you can see, those numbers are within our range, our target range. Nothing too noteworthy here. We were happy with how things played out. If you recall, Mr. Wilcox will be returning in a .6 capacity, so he'll be taking on 3 sections in the science department. So we're happy to welcome Mr. Wilcox back, and right at the right time with how our numbers fell out. Social studies numbers. I think it was last year. Yeah, it was last year. We talked about some numbers that were a little too high in social studies. They've kind of rounded out somewhat with our highest sections being the psych class. I think we did our department chair and assistant principals did a nice job just finding the right balance and cutting a section here, adding a section there, and again came out pretty much within our targeted range for class size. Art, visual art, and this first one is just visual art. If you look, I want to bring your attention to, so we are running AP Art and Design. That class size is at 9 right now. We know that is annually a smaller group. We've talked about potentially not running it certain years. We felt like 9 was a number that we wanted to support it this year. But if a number were to be too low, we have talked about potentially not running it 1 year and then and picking it back up the following. The drawing 2 and digital photo 2, those are 2 classes that we typically see increase as the year goes on. Students who take digital photography 1 or drawing 1 in the first semester oftentimes will stay on board and take the next level in the second semester. So we do anticipate those numbers to increase excuse me, as we head into the second semester. Moving on to performing arts, you may recall we did make a switch last year in the program of studies where we created, or we made the concert band and the concert choir every day, all year courses instead of the every other day opposite the jazz choir. So if you look down at the jazz choir, that did not run as anticipated. All of the students who would have taken that just signed up for the everyday concert choir, in which they will get the same curriculum will be covered. And I think the plan will be next year to remove that jazz choir from the program of studies. If just bring your attention to the jazz band, that number is small. We know it's 8, and typically that class is going to be small. The jazz ensemble is usually a smaller group to begin with, so we did choose to run that at that number, knowing that it is a smaller section size. Moving on to world language, I just want to bring your attention to a change from last year to this, actually the last 2 years. So the last 2 years, we had used that extra 0.2 FTE in Spanish. We've had a teacher take on the extra section for Spanish the last 2 years, and as was the intent originally when that 0.4 went in, 0.2 at the middle school, 0.2 at the high school, that 0.2 will be used in French this year for the first time. So we were pretty happy with our enrollment numbers. If you take at a quick glance, all healthy numbers. We have Mr. McFarland. The plan will be, if you look at his Latin numbers, he has Latin 1, Latin 2, and the plan will be for Mr. McFarland to be doing Senior Quest next year, and the additional French class that we needed to run is going to be taught by our department chair, so she'll be teaching 5 instead of the 4. And I am, of course, open to any questions.
Does anyone have any questions for Tim?
Sure.
Okay. I should not wait. I should just be like, okay, let's go.
Have you seen anything that you would categorize as impact yet to, as a result of the elimination of top 10? As far as the distribution and course selection?
No, so recently we talked about, recently we did talk about that instructional practices as an internal review. We haven't pulled that data yet.
Just gut feel.
I think students are, generally speaking, I think the pressure to take those courses, I do feel that it's different. I don't have the same sense of the,
Desperation.
yeah, that uber competitive, top tier of students feeling the need to take those courses instead of the want to take those courses. And that's anecdotal. But as far as request numbers and then where our numbers lie, we continue to offer a wide variety of AP courses, a wide variety of elective courses. And, I do feel like, we do have something for most students' interests, be it at the advanced level or just selective level.
I have not seen what I would call the GPA tracking, and usually about this time of year is when that would be quite prevalent. You'd be hearing numbers, you'd be hearing students talk about numbers, and at course selection, you would have students running numbers. I really didn't see it the same way at all this year, for students selecting courses and for graduating seniors.
Do you have any information yet on expected participation in CTE?
That's exactly what I was going to ask. That was my question. Damn it.
Sorry.
Yeah,
I draw the question, Paul. Do you have any questions?
Yeah, I just was wondering, we could use some CTE numbers, that's all.
It looks, that's actually this week. We're getting those numbers right now, and we're trying to look at the schedule and how they fit. Carol just said right now the number's over 50, but I don't know if we've gotten all of our acceptances back at this point. I think there were still a few we were waiting to get from the receiving schools, but the numbers, I think from the counselors, they're up. They look like students really want to engage in those programs. It's getting competitive.
Are there any other questions? Nobody? No. Thanks, great, Tim. Thanks so much for doing it.
Thank you.
Just to remind the public, these are requests. These are not, set in stone, and we will be receiving an update on what actually happened in October. And it's important for everyone to remember that it's really hard to anticipate exactly what's going to happen. So this is just the beginning of the process. Right? Okay.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you so much. So we are officially done with principals' reports and presentations from the administration. We have some policy stuff, but do we need?
What about the website?
The website,
Still the-
okay.
the
No, I know
revenue.
we're not doing that. I just want to know if the principals need to stay through the website. Like,
Doesn't Carol Tyler, isn't she?
Carol needs to stay, yes, but I'm wondering if Tim and Patrick need to stay. You think they should for the,
You can let them go home if you'd like.
yeah, I was gonna let them go
I know
home.
Patrick would like to go home.
Right, I think I would like to send
I mean, I always enjoy
Patrick
you
and,
guys
right,
for the last few months.
right.
Nice heads up.
No, I just don't know if it's necessary for them. It's 8:38.
Is it this whole side that's leaving?
Yeah.
No.
Right.
No.
So, thank you very much. So, yes, I know I have more stuff to do. We're gonna, I think, will we let Carol go first and then do, or Linda? You guys fight it out, I don't care.
If you want, I have to set up. So
Yeah, so what, Linda, why don't you go? Thank you. That's why we have it in this order.
Okay, well, on my drive here tonight, I was scanning channels on the radio, and Snoop Dogg came on.
Oh, well,
And I
then,
thought, how fun would it be if I did this presentation like Snoop Dogg? But I'm not.
Tim's like,
But I did think that would wake people up. All right, so, here we go. So Superintendent Corey presented in April, I wasn't here, and really the story hasn't changed. In May, we're out of our $27.5 million expense budget, we're showing a savings of about $1.3 million. It's the same story that we've been saying for probably half a year, the vacancies, hiring savings, and huge savings in special ed with savings in out-of-district services that aren't happening. What I did want to add, though, that I haven't really said before, and just spend 1 minute to say, the business office is very proactive, and especially at the end of the year, we have a month and a half left to go. It's not that we're waiting for invoices to come and we pay them. We are actively, if we know we got 100 textbooks and we haven't paid for them 3 months ago, we're looking for that invoice. Sometimes invoices actually end up in teachers' email inboxes, and we don't see them. So we're not only trying to clean up the invoices, pay for the goods and services, but we're also looking at all our remaining purchase orders, hundreds of purchase orders, and looking to see if we can take money out of that encumbrance column and move it into the balance column. So, for example, at the beginning of the year, we budget for lane changes when teachers advance their degree and get more money in salaries. And we get a list of maybe 20 people who have said a year ago, we plan to do it. At this point in the year, we look at every teacher to see if they've done it. If they haven't, that was $50,000 back in the open balance column as opposed to in the encumbrance column. So I just wanted to point out, you hear the same story about the expenses over and over, but you don't really understand our process is not reactive in the business office, it's very proactive, and it works very well. On the revenue side, we're still showing about the same numbers we did last month. Out of the revenue, we're showing in excess of the budget about $100,000, and most of that, again, is due to that New Hampshire retirement system unexpected reimbursement we got of $135,000. So, bottom line is, after funding the maintenance trust, special ed trust, retained fund balance, and contingency fund, for FY24, we would have a projected fund balance of $456,248. And the business administrator, Kelly, did write a memo, which I think we're not taking action on tonight, but a plan for that $456,000. And I didn't know if you wanted to speak at all about that, Superintendent Corey, but that's all I have.
Thank you, Linda.
In your packet, Kelly had provided a memo to kind of give you an opportunity to look at that $456,248. She discussed the $200,000 that was allocated to reduce the tax rate, giving us $256,248, which the vast majority, as Linda said, is a result of special education, and we typically do not spend those funds because they fall outside of guidance. But at the same time, Kelly wanted you to be aware that typically at this time of year, if we're going to have a fund balance, it typically grows because we are closing out, we're not necessarily encumbering new items. So there were a couple projects. One, you're aware of, the Hollis Brookline High School, middle school dugouts. And that is, we're looking at the athletic revolving fund for those, and we're waiting for some final quotes, which we should have in June. And would like to hopefully approve something in June to be able to have those up and running for next year. One of the big pieces, we'd like to do a security retrofit here at the middle school, very similar to the one we did at the high school, to really restructure our access, and we have an approximate quote of that of $120,000. We have a need for not many, but a few extra cameras outside after a recent audit that we had completed. So there'll be a number assigned to that as we're waiting for the quote. And then the interactive flat panels, we had some in the FY '24 budget as we continually do our slow rollout, just like we've done with many things. But we put the total number of boards that would be replacing over time, so that if we could accelerate that, we would. Those numbers will come back next month, and we can make a more concrete proposal to see what, if anything, the board would like to do with the fund balance. But that memo will probably reappear almost in the same form, hopefully with a couple more quotes, so you'll be able to take action in June. Are there any questions on the fund balance?
Are those interactive flat panels replacing smart boards?
Correct.
Are the smart boards being repurposed?
Sometimes they're not. Some rooms just have a projector, and the projectors are aged out. But all smart boards that have not reached end of life have already been repurposed for those that already had one in existence.
Do you have any just thumbnail, what it cost, are we scale of it?
Well, since Kelly and Brian had talked about using the athletic revolving fund, I'm going to put it somewhere, very broad, call it anywhere from probably close to 40 to a maximum of around 60.
Okay, so it's under 100 grand?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Are you going to address the
Yep.
next one with the
Yeah.
kitchen plan?
Yes, and the next one we still have on the agenda is a deliberative item. During COVID, the federal government, as we all know, made lunches free. But each lunch that was picked up, if they were doing a drive-by or processed here at the schools, was reimbursed. So all lunches were reimbursable. So that resulted in our food service balance growing exponentially because you really didn't have many expenses and you were generating a lot of revenue. The state does not allow that to happen in a food service account, so we received notification that we had to complete a spend down plan at the earliest convenience. That spend down plan was submitted by Kelly in collaboration with Amy Cassidy, our food service director, and approved by the state. So we'll be moving forward. The two pieces that we're looking to do that fall under the balance that we're required to spend are the food service line. And by changing that line, we'll be able to move students through much quicker, and we'll be able to change how we display things. And then the other piece will be a properly sized dishwasher. This is going to dramatically change our space and what we free up, because modern dishwashers are much more efficient and are not as clunky or as large as they used to be. So Kelly is actually meeting with Amy Cassidy and a design team as we're getting the final quotes on the required bids, because again, it's the food service federal dollars, so it has to be put out to bid, and there has to be a minimum of 3 bids, and then the low bid is selected. So Kelly is looking for us to move forward with that as soon as we can. So I will ask the board to support using the extra funds that could only be used to purchase food service equipment and move forward so that we can have this back to you in June with the final cost and the final breakdown.
Great, thank you. Any questions on that?
Do you know how much we have to spend it down to get into compliance?
I don't off the top of my head because I just did too much with numbers today, honestly.
That's Holly's excuse.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, it
That's
works
true.
well.
And I like numbers.
I like words.
But do you get the sense that the expenditure just gets us there, or does it get us some headroom?
It gets us some headroom,
Okay.
yeah. And it's because these are items that we probably haven't replaced in our high school kitchen for close to
a long time.
Yeah, some of it may be the original equipment. So this will be a nice piece. And we also examined if we were to move forward with some sort of renovation plan that impacted the kitchen, would all this equipment be able to be repurposed and go into a new condition, kitchen? And the answer to that is yes. So we're not putting money forward that 2 years from now, we might be looking to do something different. All this equipment would just be incorporated into anything that is new.
You can't spend it down on some kind of a boiler to supply hot water for the dishwasher?
You can't, but that's a heck of a suggestion. Yeah.
So, I just need to apologize. I have to go back to, a little bit back in my outline. Because Beth was not present at the organizational meeting, you need to, I'd ask you to state agreement to adherence to policy BCA, Board Member Code of Ethics. I need you to state, I will adhere to that.
I will adhere to that.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's all for Dawn. Okay. Thanks, Sandy, for all of that. So we'll just have the motion to pass this will be just
Right.
to accept the spend down plan as presented. Okay. Okay, so moving on. We need to see a preview of the new SAU 41 school website. Thank you, Carol Tyler.
Welcome. Thanks for having me. So just to start, new website. Why? It feels like we were just here a few short years ago talking about the new website. So School Point is the company we hired back in 2020 to build and host our website. About a year later, School Point was bought by Final Site. And Final Site has a different platform, different way that they set up their website. So all of our content needed to be migrated to the new platform. And then that, of course, meant new website design. So about 6 months ago, we formed a committee. We had SAU 41 staff, the communication and compliance person, principal. Patrick West was on our committee. We had a school board member, Amy Kellner from the Hollis School Board Committee, and we took lots of input from the building secretaries about our current website. So then we all met and we had some goals. We wanted the new website that our current one, even though it was only 3 years old, is already looking a little tired. So we wanted a better looking design. We also wanted menus that made sense, ease of use, of course, and then helpful pages that had content that we didn't previously have on our website. And that came about from looking at so many websites. So that's the background, and our website is being sunsetted, this current site, in June. I had them extend it to June 30th. So we have our current one until the last day of the month, and this new one will be up and live sometime on June 30th. So I'll get started. So I'm just going to show you a couple of screenshots, and then we'll go to the live site. But basically, the new site has 3 tiers of menus, and it's kind of hard to see here, but we have a top layer menu that has district and schools, then a second menu that is for families, for staff, for students, and then the basic menus. On the front page also, we have dynamic boxes that shows all the schools rather than those little buttons. Let's see, we have our by the numbers, which was on the old site, and these are DOE numbers, our state reporting numbers. Those are the menus. You can see them a little bit better. The schools are listed very clearly. And the middle banner, like I said, is for parents, for students. It's more related to our community. And then the bottom menus are more related to the topics of the school. The school homepage has the same menu structure. The top 2 are exactly the same. And then the content within the different menus in the middle bar is the same headings, but different content based on each school. There's a news and events piece for every school and every district, every school and the district. And then we have some exciting new pages called the Family Portal, and I'll get to that next. So I'm just going to go to the live site. This is our, and I'll just keep showing you some really nice stuff that we're pretty excited about. So here's our live site. here's the district, top banner, it shows district and schools. In the schools, it's just a tray that slides out, and you can click on any school. The nice thing about it is if you click on a school, you can immediately get back to any other school or back to the SAU. And on our old site, you would have to go to a school, the SAU, back to a school. This, you can get to any school from any school or back to the district. On the home page, like I said, these are dynamic. You click on it, it shows you the building, and you can go right to that school. We have news and events. This will pull from all schools or district news. And then our by the numbers is quite similar. It's just a lot cleaner and a little more white space, a little better layout. And then we have links and resources at the bottom, and those are the things that on our current site, some of it was really confusing and hard to find, and it was in that middle section, and there was just a laundry list of things there. But these can be broken out by links and resources, parent resources, faculty and staff information, and this footer is on every page. I'm sure you're wondering about the board pages. Another nice thing about this is these dynamic menus allow you to have pictures on them, and they're very clear across the board. They're easy to read. But we'll go to district, and then over to boards, and it just has the 4 boards. We'll go to the co-op school board. Or maybe not. It's thinking.
We don't really exist.
Yeah. Oh, there we go. Okay. So on the left, you have your menus for your links that were on the current website. These are all the same. Those are basically your co-op pages. Little blurb about when you meet, more about the school board, and then these are called accordions, and they're super helpful. If you want to see board members, it just you just click on the accordion, it populates, it shows you the list of you as board members. Same thing with policies under review and helpful links. So it gives you a lot more content in a smaller space, and it's much easier to read. The meeting documents on the right, this is the same format that we currently have. We did just purchase something called Board Docs. It's new software that will be built into this website, but it's a plugin basically, and it will house your policies, your agendas, and your board minutes. And we just kicked off that call on Monday, and that software will be implemented hopefully right around June 30th, July 1st.
So that will eliminate us needing to use the service provided by NHSBA anymore?
Correct.
Since that,
Yes.
well, it doesn't exist, and we were the only school board.
Correct.
Or the
So-
school district that was using it. So there was no impetus to really fix it, because it was just us. So-
Correct. Yep, so all our board policies will be here, your agendas and minutes. It's very functional, the new software. You'll be able to search, say you want to look up data retention policy. You could put data retention in the search bar, and it will give you any policy or minutes or agenda that has that word. So it's got a lot of capabilities for just getting content that you need easily.
Searching documents, yeah.
Yeah. Great search functions. Okay, so that's the school board page, and like I said, go back to the menu. You're at boards, you can get to a school, so I'll go right to show you the school pages. So let's go to the middle school. Again, we have the same menu structure at the top for families, for students, for staff, and then the basic building content, the school, learning. We also renamed the menus to make them more in line with what we think a school website should be. Instead of academics, we talk about learning. Resources are the other parts of school that aren't academics or learning, but we tried to group them a little bit better. So I'm going to go to let me show you the rest of the homepage. So we have the picture here. We talk about the school here. So it gives you a description of the school. News and events section. And this would also have any calendar events down here, but these would be news pieces. And then by the numbers, again, the links and the resources.
Could you click on the full calendar button so it shows?
Yeah, I'm going to go to the high school to show you the full calendar. Yeah. So if I go to the high school. So that is what the calendar would look like, and then you can view the full calendar. And it will give you a full calendar.
The reason I'm asking about the calendar is right now, if you go to calendar, it's not like a PDF of what the days are, the days off and date.
That's the school year academic calendar.
Yeah.
Yes, this is the interactive calendar.
This is the real one.
This is the real calendar. Yeah, so there's two.
Yeah, that's always the confusion when you're a user is, because I like the calendar, that PDF calendar, I kind of always need to look at that, and that one I always find, as a user, I struggle to figure out which calendar I need, so.
So one can, we can call one events calendar and one academic calendar.
Yeah,
They different names. but yeah.
Clarifying the name would be helpful, because you're constantly clicking at, I don't know, maybe I'm the only one who.
No.
That's why I was asking, I wanted
That's
to
always
see what came
been
up when
difficult.
you hit that one, because I'm usually looking for the other one and didn't know how to find it.
Right,
Yeah.
right, so those are the,
Well, it's like right now, if you go to Quick Links, you go to calendar. If you click on calendar, it's the school year calendar, not this calendar.
Not the events
It would
calendar.
be
But
great
that
to have
calendar's
both
in a little way.
calendars in the same place almost, with different names. So
Right,
you- yeah.
academic or, school year
Exactly.
calendar and events calendar.
right.
Now, will this calendar be aware of where you are when you go into it and pre-apply filters, or
So these calendars that I got to from the homepage of the high school
Yeah.
are for the high school.
just the high school?
Yes, yep.
But when you're in there, can you, while you're in there, say, okay, I'm in the calendar now, let me look at the middle school? Or would you have to go back out and go into it from the middle school?
You can set the calendar up to have all that information, but like the high school, for example, there's a lot here. So,
No, I'm
yeah.
saying, but it's all the same calendar underneath, because all of them are on it, right? And this is applying filters to it?
No, we actually have different calendars
you
for each
do?
school. Yes, we do.
Okay.
Yep. Yep. Okay. So, I'm gonna move on to the new content. That's very exciting. So we have something that's now called, a family portal. I'm gonna get back to the middle school. So we have for each school, we have a family portal. So what we did is we tried to get content here specific to family members and students that is much cleaner, easier to find. These tiles are interactive, where if I click on Power School, I'm gonna go to the Power School login page, my school bucks, ClassLink, Pickup a Patrol, for those schools that use it. Here's board docs. This is coming. I put the tile there already. That's where your agendas, minutes, a link to the meetings, and then it says right here, academic calendar. It's kind of hard to read, but that's where you could find your calendar and get to that document. And this one is for 23-24. And then these are tabs across the top. If you were looking for documents for the middle school, the student handbook, then FERPA notice, school and district report card, and then I have co-curricular activities here for students if they're interested. On the right is going to be the principal's message for that school, talking about the school. Newsletters for the school are here, and then any district messages would be down here. So all in one place. Students will have a portal. It's specific to each school. So if there's different links and documents that a high schooler would need versus a middle schooler, they would be here. We would also have any announcements, daily announcements would be linked right here. Any questions so far?
You may not have gotten to it, but all of the curriculum that was put together last year and is where's that going to be?
Yep, so back to the district page. Our district departments, it would be under curriculum.
Okay.
Yep.
Is there, there was discussion about making curriculum almost like a standalone entry point at an early stage because of all of the attention that it's getting. Was that communicated to you at all?
Dina was on the committee.
Because we talked, when we were having all the discussion, we said, is there a way to get that so that people don't have to know how to navigate to get to it, that it would circumvent that searching process?
I don't know how to, without cluttering the homepage, I don't really know how to make it any more apparent than right there.
I'm just wondering if you want to elevate it to a quick link or something like that.
The problem is, there's a lot that goes to the quick link, and that's what we found in our current website. We just had like a laundry list, and it wasn't organized.
So
And
it stops being useful.
it stopped, yeah, it's not
Exactly,
quick
yeah.
anymore. So I feel like this location is probably better. However, in terms of your point,
I wouldn't think of going to departments for curriculum. That's just me.
You're talking about the community wants to see the curriculum because we've had so much
Yeah.
scrutiny about it. Yeah, they wouldn't, it's almost like it needs a community page of some sort.
This is well, if you went for
Well, you could also
families,
put it under for families. You could have a link to curriculum here.
Yeah, maybe.
Do people still feel that that's a hot topic?
I don't think it's quite as much a hot topic. I think it's really important that it's there. I think we can get feedback when it goes live and see if people are struggling finding it. We'll hear if people are frustrated.
so
and, you
yeah,
know.
so there's a page that Carol will share in a moment, and that'll help us get that feedback of what people are having a hard time finding, et cetera. The only thing that would be slightly more functional is the way we have it is you have the link to the curriculum page, and then you go by school to provide a direct link within the school page to the ones that are pertinent to that school.
Yeah, I actually think that would be helpful for families and parents. And also, I think when members of the community go, they might go to the school to see what the curriculum is, if they're really concerned about high school curriculum or.
The two that strike me as ones that we get frequent feedback on are policy and curriculum, where people don't know how to get there.
Okay, I have an answer.
But part of what the rollout will be, and of course, this doesn't help the community members without a child attached to the school, but will be communicating to all families, this is going to be rolled out, this is the date, and these are some high-level features, just to sort of give that initial introduction with,
Just send that to the Post Brookline News.
News Online. Yep, we could do that.
Campaign on
Yep.
it.
So we'll be sending out a communication to families probably at the beginning of June, announcing that they won't go to anywhere else but sau41.org, but when they click on it, probably on July 1st, it will look like this versus the old. So it's not a new URL to learn, it's just the new site, but communication will go home, and then we'll have a pop-up on our current website with that information as well as we get closer to the date. But back to your questions about, the frequently asked questions. We now have a page, FAQs. There's one on every school and at the district. So here's another place that we could answer that question for you. So we did, like I said, looked at hundreds of websites and saw things that we liked, didn't like, and then just the questions that we get from building secretaries and admins. So we have an FAQ page, like I said, on every site. And then if we didn't answer your question on this page, we have an How Can We Assist You section. And this is a form that anyone can fill out and enter their question below, and it gets submitted right to final site, and then we can review those questions. But I broke up our FAQs into 3 different sections: student life, learning, where curriculum would go, and then co-curricular. And these are just general questions at the SAU level, but they can get more granular at each school. How do I report my child's absence? It lists the schools. How do I find a bus route? It will list it at the school. What happens if there's a closing or delay? Talks about how we announce that. I am new to the district. Where do I start? Which we also have a really great new student page. So this is just sort of to help answer those questions instead of saying, oh, just go to the search bar. This gives you more information and will direct you somewhere else if necessary. How do I check my child's grades? Talk about how to do that, and a link to PowerSchool right there. So let's go back to, I'm new to the district, where do I start? it says, "Welcome to the SAU." Do you want me to make, can you guys see that? This goes straight to our new student registration page. In here, we tried to do a much better job of explaining what SAU 41 is. If you just moved here from California and have no idea what an SAU is, we talk about that, and then we talk about the progression of schools. If you just moved to town and have no idea, you have a 3-year-old, you don't know, you maybe know the elementary school down the road, but what happens after that? So we show the progression of schools and the grade levels of those schools. We have the required documents over here, and then residency rules, and then school-specific information. And in that, I'll go to the middle school. It talks about what grades you're in, talks about the team-based approach, and then FAQs here as well. How do I choose electives? How is my child placed on a team? And then over here, what is required for registration. So we're excited about those new pages. And is there anything else? Do you want?
Did you do the, on the prior page, the side form?
Yeah, I
Oh,
talked
okay.
about
I
that.
must have missed
Yep.
Sorry.
Is there anywhere in that new student, new welcome to explain that the co-op, like that we have a board, any explanation of how our boards work anywhere?
No, but we can actually put that on the new student and the FAQs.
Just because sometimes we have public comment and people come and talk about kindergartners and they don't know that there's 3 different boards,
Yep.
you know.
So
4,
on our
sorry.
district page, we do talk about districts at a glance. This is another new page. What is an
Okay.
SAU? The districts within, and we can add that content here as well.
Where is, if people are looking for things that they think are administrative elements, so for instance, is policies, who are the administrators, rules, kinds of, is that considered part of learning, or is that considered part?
Okay, so those are kind of different
We
questions,
used to
right?
have like the business office, and people always,
Yep,
So
so
is
your
it still under
departments,
there?
yep. And then I did have one other new page to show, and I can show it at a school and at the SAU. We do have, under school, we have the bell schedule, the academic calendar, but now we have 2 other new sections. The school board is also on each school's page, so a link right to the school board for that school.
That
We have
helps
a
a lot.
new page called Meet the Staff. And on this page, it shows you on the right, again, the name of the school, the address, the principal, assistant principal listed here. But then you have staff here with pictures, and then you click on the teacher, and it will give you more information. They'll all be at that school, but the location and then the teacher website. There's a hyperlink icon to email the teacher right there, but not a direct email link, just to try to keep away from spam. And then a link to the teacher website is here. You can also.
teacher website's going to follow this template as well?
Teacher websites are built in Google Sites, and then they're linked here. So the teacher websites won't change. Teacher won't be responsibility for building new content on the new platform.
Will they show up, though, with the same
No,
menu structure at the very top?
no.
No, they're individual sites, so you won't go from one site to another. So I'm here at our school, and I just showed you Meet the Staff, and then there's also another link for the teacher websites. And they're all listed here. Any teacher that has a site, it's listed by name. So you can see it both ways to quickly get to those websites.
Who oversees the structure and content put on a teacher website? Is there any oversight of that?
The building administrator. So the new compliance and communication specialist comes on board June 5th, and really will focus all of the initial few months on website and website content and revising and rolling out a new feature. And part of it is looking at compliance of our school pages to make sure that they're following the structure once it's kind of handed over. And then a little bit of making sure links aren't dead, but part of that is looking at the teacher websites to make sure that they've been updated, they weren't built 10 years ago and haven't been touched. But down to the nitty-gritty of specifically the content, that's more of a
And
principle.
verifying ADA compliance of the teacher websites as well?
Carol?
Yeah, Google's final site is ADA compliant,
Yeah.
and then Google Sites, we have to make sure we have that. I have to get back to you on the exact answer, but I think it's an implementation that we have to turn on and make sure is on. Yep. But I can confirm that when I go into Google Sites and take a look at the settings.
Do you collect any cookies?
Does final site? I don't have an answer for that. Yeah.
I missed the question.
Do we collect cookies?
We, I don't know about cookies, but we do have a site map, Tom.
We do.
Well, sitemaps,
No, I know, but it's something that you had asked for
Yeah.
years, so I'm letting you know there is one now.
because it's just that now with the cookies, you have to have the whole.
I accept, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. If we used Google Analytics, we would collect cookies. It's currently not turned on.
Oh, good.
Yep. Does that answer the question?
That makes, if the cookies aren't turned on, then it's easy.
Right.
Are there any other questions? Are you done, Carol?
Unless there's other things that you want to see. So the site map is down here.
Oh,
Right here.
I'm happy for you to keep going, I just didn't, oh, well, there it is.
And the site map, of course, is dynamic, so the more that is built out, the bigger the site map. But it is
Is
here.
I don't know if this is a demo site or if this is just housed in a development location, but is it available to us to look at prior to its rollout?
The links are, yes and no to the demo site. It's an active site that's being built.
I guess the question is, will you allow us to look at it ahead of time or not?
When we get to a point that we're ready to make that decision,
Yep.
we'll
So
let
you've
you
already
know.
made a decision. This is no.
No,
We're
it's
still
just,
building it.
we're still building it.
No, I'm saying, are you, well, there's something here, there is something here, and.
They're still playing with it before it's released, I think, to even
And
us, yeah.
that's what I,
Right.
that's when I'd like to look at it.
So the content was migrated over, but the design and the placement of the pages was not. And any new content we're still building, like the FAQs and the new student registration, that was all built. That wasn't migrated because it didn't exist before. So we still have a lot of work to do. I'm glad it's June 30th because there's still a lot more building and rearranging of pages. The content lives there, but right now it's not pretty to look at. If that answers your question.
Are there any other questions?
No?
So, I mean, this is incredible, like, it's a lot of work to
Yeah.
do this, especially because it was kind of thrown at you, given the circumstances, it sounds like, so, it looks great, it looks more, user-friendly, I don't really know what the right language is, but it looks good to me.
Yeah, great
But
job, thank
I
you.
will tell you, no matter what you do, when it goes live, people are gonna complain about it.
No, people are gonna.
We complain.
Yeah,
It's
no,
okay.
and when the committee, what we tried to do was, okay, we're gonna identify where all these pieces should go. Go home, you decide, and then come back and see if we agree. And we pretty much didn't agree.
Yeah, we didn't.
Because everyone's brain works differently in terms of how to navigate and how to find. So what we've tried to do is have intentional overlap, so you can get to places that community members would go to often in multiple ways,
Which is
when
smart.
possible.
Yeah, it's great.
And then I think I mentioned to you, I wonder if there would be a way, and this has not much to do with the website, but maybe a little bit of a communication tool, to have some sort of a way for folks to subscribe to announcements from the from the schools, because as we are learning, there's not a lot of communication tools out there for, there's not newspapers anymore. I know there's Hollis Brookline Rotary News, which is great, it's an online service, but I think a lot of folks in the community ask me, like, if you don't have kids in the school anymore, you don't know that there's a snow day, you don't know that, to have some sort of like a generated, when we send a announcement out, that folks who wanted to get that announcement could subscribe to it in some way.
Towns have an alert
Right, like you could
subscribe to which-
sign up for it, because the towns don't alert for snow days. They might alert if we're in the middle of a crazy blizzard, but they won't alert for snow days. But you could also use it for even a little bit of PR for announcements of things that are coming up, like town meetings, or school board meetings, and things like that.
All the agendas.
Right, it would be, you would subscribe to it, so, but that's not really website related, but it's sort of in the same topic, so.
I think it is.
There's a messaging interface
It's
that, with
driven.
it.
It's driven
Yeah.
off the website.
Okay, see, so there you go,
So you're right.
it was there, wow, look at me, so technical. All right, so thank you, Carol, for
Who would be
everything.
responsible for updating, if the board decides that they want to have something posted or revised or something, who will be their point of contact for that kind of thing?
Do you mean from a board packet, like an agenda or minutes, or?
No, I'm just thinking of either an announcement, a content, like a document that they want to make available that doesn't automatically get rolled into the packet or the minutes that get delivered.
So Board Docs, the new software that we just purchased, has all kinds of documents that can be attached to that. So if you went into Board Docs, you could get to other documents. But if it's something specific to the web page, it would be probably our communications and compliance person.
And if it's board docs, will that be another individual?
Same, it would be a different,
Okay.
yeah.
And then finally, thanks, Carol, but also for the public, if anybody's listening, as we stated, our policy website, or, you know, the holder of our policies right now,
Yeah.
portal, is down, and it's not available, but our policies are available at the SAU office, but it would be great if you would call ahead if you wanted to come and see them. They are open to the public, they are available for the public, for public viewing, but we ask that you at least touch base before you come in. So, right? Okay, did you have a question?
Questions?
I did have
I'm
just
sorry, I
one quick thing. That was a subtle push to candy. I guess not sort of website, but in the current website, it's student services. And I know that counselors are housed in there. And I haven't seen the social worker up here. At least I haven't been able to find her. And I'm assuming she's going to live somewhere in the new website. But I didn't know if there was any, and I'm just throwing out there's a content thing, like any thought to doing like a student center that could have some college and career kinds of information and links for families to look at, and then possibly also some social work kind of resources, and building that out a little bit, because I know there's a lot of people in the community that, or parents who maybe are wondering about food baskets, but don't want to call, but maybe there's information on the website, or, so starting to just build up a resource for the social work things, but then also I'm
Yeah,
thinking career.
absolutely. That was the intent of that family portal
Yep.
and the student portal page. Right now, they're one and the same until we find that content where, oh, this would just be for a student or a parent, but this is where it would go. We could add another tab here, or documents and resources, or a whole other section somewhere. But we don't know what content we want yet until we get
Right.
feedback like that, so that's great. And that's exactly the intent of this
Yeah,
page.
that'd be great.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay,
Thank you, that's
Yeah.
great, it was a lot of work,
all right.
thank you. Are there any other
Thanks.
questions or comments? Okay.
Okay,
Thanks,
thank you.
Carol.
Thank
Thank you
you.
very much. Good job, all of you. Okay, moving on, thank you. Report out from the Budget Committee. Remember, I used the word quick, Tom?
Don't go too far with it. It's a relative term. We had a reorganization meeting, and again, the wondrous Darlene Mann is chair, and Raul is vice chair. One of the things that she pointed out is that there's been a lot of comments about it in the past, and apparently we're under misconception. We are allowed to have an alternate. Who can vote?
Well, I know we've been saying that.
She
but
said
you-
RSA, and she pointed at RSA 32 allows our alternates under 32-15 1B. And so in the past, we were told we couldn't. And we actually went so far as to having someone resign because they weren't going to be able to make a meeting. so that we could appoint a different person and then change back. But anyway, long story short, we can do it.
Great.
You just can't have a second alternate that can
Yeah,
vote.
yeah,
Because
but-
I was one of those, and I couldn't vote, but I still went when I was,
So-
when they needed.
Do you
Some-
have to assign a name to it? Does it have to be?
Yeah, it's an appointment.
Yes, you have to appoint the alternate. So it's just something, if you want to, if we want to consider having that, we can do it. They have laid out the schedule for the year. They generally, it follows the normal thing, but they don't meet in March. There's, I think, 3 months they don't meet in because of either lack of activity or overlap with.
They don't meet in February, they don't meet in March, and they don't meet in July
Is it July?
or August, one of those two, but I think it's July.
Okay. The question is, can the Budget Committee members receive the NHSBA emails? Because one of the things that came up was they are not informed about the legislative activities the way we are as board members. So it'd be great, I mean, if we didn't have a budget committee, that same function would happen from the school board. So I think functionally, they are an extension of the school board in that regard. And it would be great if they automatically got signed up for the NHSBA emails. A lot of great information would reach them.
I will check on that.
Okay. And if the answer is no, I think that's something we want to perhaps challenge.
I think the only question they might ask is, are you going to pay for another membership? Because it's a separate board. And I'm
That-
not, I
yeah.
mean, we don't need to discuss it tonight,
Yeah,
but I'm
so
just
let's
saying.
find that out.
Let me ask the question, and we'll find out.
And then maybe we
what
can
the-
fight that.
Yeah.
Maybe even if it's just to the chair, and the chair, so it's one member. It's
Well,
not a
except
whole
that
board.
being part of the member, you can go to webinars on budgeting, you can go to webinars on right to know, all of these things that effectively, they are an extension of us because they do that portion
Yeah.
of
Right,
a board's
it
job.
makes sense. Let's
Yeah.
just ask the
Definitely.
question and
Yep.
see if they'll do it.
Yeah.
That's great.
So, that's it.
Awesome, thank you. I need to take a 2-minute recess, if that's okay, everybody?
5.
Okay.
You can walk slowly.
Thank you. All right. Reconvening, we all set? Everybody else set? I'm good. We're moving forward with deliberations. Let me pull up my thing. So the first deliberative item is to see what action the board will take regarding the approval of the general assurances for grant submissions to the Department of Education. I believe this motion has been vetted by our attorney to deal with some concerns that were brought up last month, and we're all feeling comfortable. He's kind of said, and just for anyone else's questions, I did check in with the council from NHSBA, and they're not really getting any questions from other boards, so this should be adequate for us. So I need a motion to authorize the board chairman to represent the school board and acknowledge that the superintendent has consulted with all members of the school board in furtherance of the school board's obligations, including those enumerated in RSA 189:1-A, and pursuant to the school board's oversight of federal funds the district will be receiving and of the general assurances, requirements, and definitions for participation in said federal programs. I need that motion. Moved by Beth, sorry, I didn't know if it was Beth or Kate. And I need a second? A second. Krista. Is there any discussion? Okay, seeing none.
No. I just want to make sure you know, Holly, that
I know.
that you, for instance, are taking responsibility to ensure that no one driving a van or a vehicle that is at all paid for with public funds texts while they drive or use their phone. I mean,
I understand your concern, and
you don't care.
It's not that I don't care, but I have a lot of faith and trust in the administration that will make sure that things are done correctly and appropriately, and I'm not concerned, and I feel comfortable with this.
Could I ask just that, if you could share those concerns with maybe our state reps locally, because I have contacted the DOE, and to Holly's point, we're the only board in the entire state of New Hampshire that has raised a question that I'm aware of.
I'm wondering if we're the only board that reads it.
I don't know, but I'm just saying, we don't have the ability to change this. When I have written to the DOE, they're like, what do you mean? They told me it's the same as last year. I said, no, it's not.
I find that really disturbing, knowing that a former board member is the legal counsel for the DOE. I question whether that's a true statement. I believe they told you that. I question whether it's a true statement.
Okay.
Is the SAU board chair required to sign this?
No, because you don't oversee any federal.
Good.
And I did confirm with Will Phillips the same thing, that no other school board has even raised it with the NHSBA. So, all those in favor? All those opposed? Okay, so 4-3, I'll sign it with that slim majority. It passes. Okay. We need to see what action the board will take regarding the business manager's recommendations for a spend-down plan for the HBHS kitchen, and the motion reads, to approve the recommendations of the business manager to utilize FY22 funds required to be spent, that should be spent down, right? Spent down per the state's food service requirements to cover the cost of the renovations outlined for the kitchen at the Hollis Brookline High School. I need a motion
So moved.
by Beth, second by Rob. Is there any further discussion on this? We talked about
Does
it.
the plan need to be approved by anyone outside of our SAU?
It goes to the state, who approves the spend down, to make sure the dollars align with how the money has to be spent, and that comes back to us, and then we can proceed forward.
I'm just wondering if the motion should include subject to approval, or doesn't it matter at this point?
It's, the plan has been submitted to the state, it has been approved by
Oh,
the
it has?
state.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Sorry, my mistake.
Okay, so all those in favor? Opposed? 0. So 7-0, motion carries.
Andy, please thank Kelly and
Yeah.
Amy for their work on that.
Okay, to see what action the board will take regarding the superintendent's recommendation for administrative compensation. And again, the motion reads to approve the recommendations of the superintendent for administrative compensation. I need somebody to put on the floor.
Second.
Rob and Beth. Moved by Rob, seconded by Beth. Is there any discussion on this?
Is there any value in articulating in public some of the elements that were discussed or not?
We provided the administrators with raises based on what was approved for.
No, I'm thinking more about the changes that were requested and agreed.
It's part of their compensation.
In terms of health insurance? Okay. Well, first, we approved raises that were in line with what was passed with the budget. The board approved the administrators' health insurance rates to be the same as the teachers' health insurance rates. And the board approved an increase to the matching 403B funds of $750 per calendar year.
Thank you.
Okay. Any more questions? All those in favor? 7-0. Motion carries. We're moving on to some policies. We need a motion to accept the first reading for policy GADA, employment references and verification, prohibiting aiding.
We skipped the business administrator item.
We had tabled that one, Rob, I'm sorry, that was
Oh.
before you got here,
I beg your pardon?
because we'll have more concrete numbers in June.
Sorry.
I don't even have that item on the
No,
outline.
because Dawn knew what was being.
Okay,
yeah,
okay.
talked
It's
about.
on the outline, it's on the.
It's not on the
agenda,
outline,
but
it's,
not the
okay.
outline, yeah.
Okay, so, yes, we did skip that, Rob. Sorry, I was very confused because I'm following the outline, not looking at the agenda. Okay. I need a motion to accept the first reading of policy GADA, employment references and verification, prohibiting aiding and abetting of sexual abuse as presented.
So moved.
Moved by Beth. I need a second by Kate. And I think we need to speak to this. Is there somebody from policy who can speak to it? Because I can't.
So this is a policy that we approved in November of 2020, but it was, they are asking us to add these two lines. Is it per RSA?
Who's they?
So we participated in a federal grant audit, and these came back as items that were required to be fixed no later than July of 2023. So they felt that our policy GADA was lacking the specific requirements, and this language comes straight out of the RSA. And they wanted the language to match. Despite the fact that the language is a little bit contradictory, can be interpreted that way, which is why in 2020 we changed it a little bit. But this is straight from the RSA, and they are requiring us to incorporate it.
What she said.
So this is for first read. It needs to be done by July 1st or July 30th? July 1st?
Well, July, somewhere mid-July, we're supposed to have a final report out with,
Okay,
with minutes from all the board members, with it adopted, and
yeah,
all that good stuff.
okay.
Is it just additions or was something deleted?
Nothing
No,
was deleted.
just additions, yeah.
Just the
So the-
underlined areas.
Yeah, is your
The numbering.
sort of contradiction the fact that it says to report, must be reported to one group and then it says, and must be reported to a second group? Is that what you were referring to?
So you don't necessarily know that if it's been properly reported to one or another agency. So there was concern that should it just be reported? If there's a question or a concern, and if it's doubly reported, that's fine. But ignore the sort of exceptions to when we don't have to prohibit. But this, like I said, this language is straight from the RSA, and so it's what's being.
I think when, in November of 2020, we played with it and
Yep.
took some of the language out. And
Yep.
basically, in the audit, we were told that wasn't the right thing to do. We need to have it in there. So we're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place because I think we had pretty lengthy discussion on this when we originally passed it. But if we don't put it in, then we're in trouble with the auditors.
Yep.
So,
Is there a concern that you can't comply with it?
No. I think the concern was one of the policy committee members, back in 2020, didn't like the ambiguity of the language. Like, how do I know for sure if something has been reported? I would rather just make sure we're saying it's always reported. So take out some of these exceptions. However,
No, I understand. So my question is, do we have a mechanism to find out if it has been reported?
not necessarily. So there's a chance that things could be doubly reported regardless, which is not a problem.
That's not a problem?
No, two reports is better than no reports.
Correct.
I didn't know if it was considered a violation to.
Nope.
Okay.
So all those in favor of this first read? 7-0, great.
Are you expecting to come back
I think we would probably
With,
come back
uh,
with second and third,
second and adopt?
be done. Second, third adopt, yes, that's,
Are you going to do a third and adopt? Because that'll put us past the
That'll put us second and
July deadline.
no, we'll do second and adopt, sorry.
Okay.
Second, waive third,
Okay.
and do adopt, yes, sorry. Okay, and then we have, to see what action the board will take regarding policy EHB, which is data and records retention. I need a motion to accept first reading of this policy
So moved.
by Beth as presented, sorry. And I need a second, Kate.
Okay, so this is another one, another policy that, from our audit, it was determined that our policy was lacking. Our policy was, the superintendent shall develop procedures for record retention. Pretty basic, in that special ed records would meet the requirements. They gave us two suggestions of, the sample from School Board Association and also from a different district. So the committee met and looked at the two options, and based on the recommendations of the committee, the language from, I believe it was Interlake School District, is incorporated here, as you see it. So all of this is what we've been doing. It's just that it's spelled out and it's clear to a member of the public who's reading policy, rather than looking for the RSAs individually for electronic records or retention or right to know, et cetera. Here it is, spelled out.
So they're requiring that we put the stuff in that will continually have to change every time they make a minor change?
Right.
That's correct.
Pretty much, which is why we went with the Interlakes
No, and-
version, because it was much more
No, I
condensed.
remember us pulling all that stuff out.
Right.
Yep.
So, but the NHB SBA sample version, which was the other option that the auditors gave us, was much more. So we went with the one
Yeah.
that the auditors suggested, which is a little bit, right?
Now-
Isn't that what we did?
Correct.
This was a few months ago.
Are
We've
these
been
state
struggling for
auditors?
policy.
What was
Or are
it?
these independent auditors?
They work for the Department of Education.
Okay, so they're state auditors.
Yeah.
So, all those in favor of this for first read?
Thank you.
7-0. So, motion carries, and hopefully we'll be able to bring this forward for second, waive third, and adopt. So we'll have these two done.
Is
Okay.
there a similar time constraint on this one as well?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Okay, one more. I do need a motion to approve committees. Let me just, for the record, state the committees, committee appointments. So, for the policy committee, we have Holly, Krista, and Beth staying on. Our budget committee rep is Tom Solon. I don't have an alternate for that yet, but, if anyone's interested in that, I can make that appointment soon.
When do they meet?
The fourth Thursday of the month, is that right?
That's the default.
Okay. But they do roll, sometimes they change it, so, okay. The IPC, does the alternate need to attend all the time so they keep up with it? Or is it something that the alternate attends when you can't?
That's a function of what the alternate wants to
Okay.
do to stay abreast, because they
They could watch the
are
meetings, too.
recorded.
Okay,
The big thing is if I know I'm not going to be able to make it, that I have someone available who can represent our interests, particularly from a voting standpoint.
and Beth, you're interested in doing that?
I do Thursday.
Okay, so Beth will be your alternate. So that's Beth Williams with the alternate. IPC steering committees, Krista, Holly, and Kate. I made a little change there. Advisory subcommittee, Tom and Kate, if that committee starts working again. Grading and assessment subcommittee is Krista and Beth. You're on that, right? The grading assessment, right? I have a note here for facilities committee. We are going to talk more about that and the structure of that in June. But for those members who are here, Rob Mann has agreed to serve on that committee once it's up and running. We have to approve it first, so technically, that's not part of this appointments today. Manifest, Rob and Kate, with Cindy as the alternate. Negotiations, Cindy, Tom, and Holly. And then I have SAU appointments as well. Do those get made through here, or are those SAU governing board appointments? There are appointments, right?
You appoint people
Okay,
to
so
SAU.
basically Cindy is all SAU. SAU policy, spec, and SAU budget is all Cindy. So that's what I have. I wanted Dawn to know what I had, so I read that into there. So I
Just
need,
one more question. Does the, HB Elevate still exist? Are they still meeting?
yeah, I guess they still exist. Do you mind continuing on that?
I don't mind continuing, I just they haven't met in 2 years.
Okay, well, I will appoint you to it, Tom,
Okay.
and then we can take that up at a later date.
Careful what you ask for.
Tom, is that okay? Right.
I have been asking.
Okay. And just to inform everyone, the Assistant Athletic Director Interview Committee, Brian was in need of somebody quickly. So if at some point you guys could let me know, I served on that just because I could do it. It's sometimes these things pop up where there's a hiring committee and, they want members from our board. I'm happy to assign or whatever, or find other people, but I kind of need to know if there's anyone available. I mean, those are generally afternoon, midday kind of things. I don't need to know that right now, but in the future, I'll reach out. So, I need a motion to accept the board chair's appointments to committees.
So moved.
Moved by Beth. I need a second.
Second.
Kate. Any questions or debate on that conversation? All in favor? That's 7-0. Great. Thank you very much. Need a report out from the process. Is there anything else? Okay. Report out from the process observer.
Okay, so we had a very packed agenda this evening. We came out of the non-public at 7 p.m., 30 minutes earlier than our planned agenda. We got through roughly 12 superintendent nominations with blazing speed, around 16 minutes. We heard the principal's reports, highlights of some great achievements and great activities. At about 7:30, we entered into the discussion section of our agenda. The board agreed to move the presentations before the class size numbers, and both presentations were quite interesting, relating to social workers, first year, and Cav Block active scheduler. At 8:30, we reviewed class sizes. We completed revenue and expense reports by 8:47. We then previewed our SAU 41 website. BudCom readout, however, was not an agenda item, so I wanted to point that.
We added it before you.
So it was part of the, I had a note here, was that an added adjustment?
It was. We adjusted that.
Okay. At 9:27, we entered into deliberations of 6 items. Generally, comments and questions were pertinent, probing, and relevant to topics discussed. The committee appointment and approvals, was that also?
An adjustment, yes.
An adjustment, okay.
Sorry.
Although we completed the agendas under 3 hours and 55 minutes, in general, building agendas that exceed 3 hours can be problematic. Beyond 3 hours, board efficiency drops substantially and keeps administrators out too late on a school night.
Completely agree. They're on your side.
Those are my observations, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much for that. At this point, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Then seconded. All those in favor? And we are out at 9:46. Am I doing this right? Because I've lost track.